It's Monday. You know what that means. More college football predictions every single game here in week number 5. There's 51 FBS versus FBS games. We're not doing Lindenwood versus Miami of Ohio, right? We're just doing FBS versus FBS games. And if I'm not mistaken, there are 51 of them this week. Now, before I get things going, how about those Indiana Hoosiers? Come on now. We're going to the playoffs. We're winning the national championship. All right. They only lost to Ohio State and Notre Dame last year on the road. This is the Hoosiers' year. I just need to get that off my chest. 50-plus point victory against a top 10 team in the country, and somehow Indiana's not in the top 10? We'll get to them later. All 51 games, though, we are predicting in this video. I don't know how long it's going to take, but lock in. We do this every single week here on the channel. And folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more weekly college football predictions. The only thing I ask of you watching these videos is to hit that subscribe button down below for more and leave a like. It helps out the channel a ton if you just do those two things. Let's do it. We've got all college football this week. And before we get into it, folks, make sure to go check out our NFL predictions tomorrow posted on the channel. We'll predict every single one of the 16 NFL games, daily MLB best bets on the channel, and on Greedo Plays MMA this week, our UFC Fight Night Perth predictions, Carlos Ulberg and Dominic Reyes in the main event, and also our PFL Paris predictions, or PFL Europe predictions. They're in Nantes, France, not Paris. Also, later today, PFL Mania predictions and Dana White's Contender Series predictions on early Tuesday morning. We got you covered for everything here on the channel this week. MLB postseason starts a week from tomorrow. We've got a lot of stuff going down, but nothing gets bigger than East Carolina at home versus Army on a Thursday night. What else are you going to be doing on a Thursday night, right? Who needs Thursday night football? Who needs the Cardinals and Seahawks from State Farm Stadium? Nah. We're going to Dowdy Ficklin Stadium in Greenville, North Carolina for the East Carolina Pirates at home against the Army Black Knights. This is why we play the game. Stuff like this. Now, East Carolina is on an extremely short week. Now, you know, in the NFL, well, I guess they both are, but East Carolina played a very late game, is what I'm getting to, on Saturday against Brigham Young. Their game was a pretty late one. I don't know why it was so late with the game starting in Carolina and not in Provo, Utah. Anyways, though, the East Carolina Pirates lose the game 34-13 at home. They are now sitting at 2-2 this season with a close loss on the road in week 1 in Raleigh, and then back-to-back wins over the Campbell Camels and the really bad Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. We won't get to talk about the Chants this week, but, you know, credit to them for beating South Alabama. Just how bad are the South Alabama Jaguars? We'll get to them in a couple hours. But East Carolina is now sitting at 2-2, and Caden Hauser has done everything they've asked him to do this season. I mean, we've known Caden Hauser is a guy who's going to sling it in the American Conference. It's a great conference for him. Obviously coming down from the Big Ten a couple seasons ago, and Caden Hauser, right, has averaged over 300 yards per game so far this season. East Carolina hosts the Army Black Knights. It's a team that just struggles to play defense. Their only victory this season is, oddly enough, against the Big 12's Kansas State, but we know K-State sucks. For some reason, we'll get to their game later. I have things to say. Army, though, 1-2 this year, losses to Tarleton State at home, and then North Texas in their last outing. It was an overtime game, early morning game on Saturday. Drew Mestemaker and the guys for the Mean Green found a way to win an OT. Army battled back. They were in a position at the end of the game to potentially win that thing. Had the ball on the North Texas 17-yard line and just couldn't get into the end zone, obviously, so they had to kick a field goal. Anyways, though, Army didn't play a horrible game. You know what they're going to do offensively, right? They're throwing the ball a little bit. Dwayne Coleman's obviously the quarterback. He's going to throw it some. He's going to carry the ball 23 times, and they're going to try to get it to their main backs. We're looking at Hayden Reed, and we're looking at Noah Short as well. I got to go East Carolina here, though. I mean, if North Texas, who has a good offense, right? Chandler Morris is gone. Obviously, it's now Mestemaker, but if they're scoring that many points on you, I can only imagine what East Carolina is going to do. I don't know if it's going to be more, but the Mean Green did that on the road, and they put 21 points on the Black Knights in the first quarter. I would imagine that East Carolina will get the scoring started very early too, and I think Caden Hauser is going to be unleashed pretty early in this football game. And he's also gotten to Yannick Smith in back-to-back games where Smith has had over 100 yards receiving. So I would expect a big night out of East Carolina. I would expect them to win the football game. 3.5-point favorites at home on a Thursday night. They should do it. Short week for both teams. It is a shorter week, in all fairness, for the Pirates because of how late their game ended against the BYU Cougars, but I expect them to win it. -3.5 and -165. Don't love the straight odds for the money line, but the Pirates should be victorious at home against the Army Black Knights. We go on now to our second game of the week, and we go to the Atlantic Coast Conference. We go to Charlottesville, Virginia for the Florida State Seminoles and the Virginia Cavaliers. FSU comes into today the 8th ranked, or comes into the week the 8th ranked team in the country, coming off their dominant victory over the Kent State Flashes, Golden Flashes. Big shocker. Florida State 3-0 now, victories over Alabama, East Texas A&M, and Kent State. One of those things are not like the other, as Alabama, by the way, is playing Georgia this week. We've got some games, man. I didn't go over that at the beginning of the video. We've got some football games. Oregon, Penn State. UW versus Ohio State. Ooh, man. And obviously Georgia, Bama. It's a loaded week. The only thing we're missing is some late night games. We only have one, Colorado, BYU. Anyways, FSU goes on the road to take on Virginia. They can't overlook the Cavaliers because you know who they have next week. That's obviously the Miami Hurricanes, who should be the #1 team in the country, but somehow they're not. FSU needs to take care of business, and I think they're going to. They're 6.5-point favorites on the road. Hesitantly, I'll take them to cover. Would I bet this? No. Okay, if you want my favorite bets every single week, go check out our best bets posted weekly on Fridays. I will give you my 10 favorite bets on a weekly basis for college football. I can almost guarantee you this game's not going to be on there. There's no reason to bet Florida State here. It's a tricky spot for them. They're on the road against a team that is not on their level, don't get me wrong. Virginia's not close to being on the level of Florida State, but a team that can battle and a team that has a good offense. We just talked about North Texas and Drew Mestamaker, who was the starting quarterback last year. Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris, obviously now the starting quarterback at the University of Virginia. Anthony Calandria over at UNLV now. That's the world of college football these days, right? But Virginia, I think, is going to be extremely competitive in this football game at times. I would think with their offense, but at the same time, FSU's defense is just insane. I mean, look what they do to Bama in week 1. Castellanos doesn't even play an incredible game in week number 1. Yes, he's running the football effectively, but he only completes 9 passes and his team wins 31-17. It's what they were able to do to bottle up that Alabama run game. Stop Ty Simpson is what ultimately led FSU to victory. And that defense, to me personally, is going to win them a lot of football games this year. I mean, we'll see next week. That's the matchup for me, right? Florida State, Miami. It's in Tallahassee. How will that great Miami offense respond against Florida State's defense? That's the big matchup for me. So now, obviously, if you're FSU, you cannot overlook Virginia, because it still means the same. It's still an ACC matchup, and for Miami, they have a week off going into the Florida State game next week. So we will not be talking about Carson Beck in Miami today. They just beat Florida 2 days ago. They get an entire week off. So it's a tricky spot for Florida State, right? Because you cannot obviously overlook Virginia, but they should win. The defense alone should really shut down Virginia. I think Virginia's going to have some drives early where they score, but I think as the game goes on, personally, I believe Florida State's going to lock in defensively and really limit what the Cavaliers are able to do. And at the same time, the offense out of Florida State, we're looking at Tommy Castellanos. We're looking at that run game as well. Samuel Singleton and company. The receiving core is not horrible either. Obviously, they are going to try to run it more than they throw it. That's just kind of how Castellanos plays. But the Florida State defense, to me, is the biggest, is the biggest bright spot on the team, obviously. Virginia, it's a 3-1. They are a 3-1 team this season with a loss at NC State. You say what you want about the Wolfpack. I don't know. That's a weird spot. Virginia's coming off a victory last week against the Stanford Cardinal. They blow Stanford out. They beat them by 28 points. So I guess the Stanford Linsanity runs over. Maybe. They host SJSU this week, though. So we'll get to that later. I'm going to go with Florida State here, though, to win and cover. They're the better football team. The defense should really give Virginia some problems, so I'm going to go with FSU on the road. We move on now to our third game of the week. We go to the Big 12. Let's go to Tempe, Arizona. TCU is ranked. Texas Christian enters the week, the 24th ranked team in the country. And I said it all of last year. I've said it for as long as I've watched college football. Ranked teams go to die in Tempe, Arizona. It's just what happens. Arizona State last week, that's a gutsy win on the road. It's a game that you need to win to stay in Big 12 championship contention. You can't start Big 12 play 0-1, especially with the teams coming up. Texas Christian this week. You still have Utah, who I know looked horrible against Texas Tech. Devin Dampier is not 100% right now. But that's still going to be a difficult game for Arizona State on the road. And you still have Texas Tech on the schedule. Iowa State, they're not as good as their ranking indicates, but that's still a difficult team. Going to Boulder is still not easy either, right? Arizona State needed to go to Waco and win. And that was a tremendous victory out of them. I thought once they fell behind, I did not think they were going to be able to retake the lead. After Baylor tied it, I did not think Arizona State was going to be able to win that football game. Baylor took the lead early in the fourth. Whatever. I thought both times, honestly, I thought when Baylor tied it up at 24-24, I thought they were going to get a stop. Don't get me wrong. Arizona State got bailed out with that helmet-to-helmet play. I don't understand it. Okay, we got robbed with Baylor. The receivers don't get protection. If you're a receiver and you slide or fall down after you catch a football and you get hit helmet-to-helmet, what is the defender supposed to do? How is the guy supposed to react? So I'm not still upset about that at all, right? But Baylor should have won that. At least the game should have gone to overtime, because ultimately that helmet-to-helmet play, it doesn't result in targeting, but it still results in a 15-yard penalty, and Arizona State's in field goal range to win the game. They've got a pretty good kicker in Jesus Gomez. So ASU wins. Again, they needed to win it. We're just going to parlay that crap into picking ASU this week. Has TCU looked good? 100%. Oh, yeah. Last week, a great victory for Texas Christian at home against Southern Methodist. SMU still has not lost in ACC play, well, because they haven't played an ACC game just yet. So they're still alive for the ACC title, but back-to-back losses to Big 12 teams doesn't really help their cause. Anyways, Texas Christian has, I don't want to say they replicated what Baylor did, but if you just air the ball out against SMU, probably in a good spot. SMU's secondary is struggling quite a bit right now. Josh Hoover with a 5-touchdown day. Josh Hoover with the 380-yard day. Hoover's been phenomenal this season, and we've known that the senior quarterback was going to have another good season here in he's only a junior, my goodness. The junior quarterback was going to have a good season building off of his sophomore year last year. I feel like Hoover's older. It's because he started his redshirt year, didn't he? Wow, redshirt freshman year. That's crazy. I thought Hoover was a senior. TCU's playing good football, but I gotta go with Arizona State here. It's just so difficult, man. Walking into Arizona at 7 o'clock at night on prime time, you're the only game, or there's another game, but it's Oregon State. No one's watching that. You're on Fox, you're on prime time, and you're in Tempe. Ranked teams never play well in Tempe, Arizona. Go back to the Jaden Daniels days. Go back to when N'Keal Harry was, well, that's over, little bit of an overlap, isn't there? Yeah. Go back to those days, though, where I'll never forget Oregon, who I think were ranked 8th at the time. God, what year was this? Is this 18? I think it was 18. No, was it 17? Anyways, Oregon one year, I think was it 17? There was a year where Oregon was ranked really high and they walked into Arizona State. Or no, it must have been 19, because that was when N'Keal Harry got drafted. Yeah, it was 19. It was Jaden Daniels, N'Keal Harry, and Brandon Ayuk. I think Pearsall was on that team too, wasn't he? My goodness, what a team that was. Eno Benjamin was the running back. Anyways, though, Oregon walked into Tempe late in the season. They were ranked number 6 in the country, and Jaden Daniels threw for 400-plus yards, and Brandon Ayuk went crazy, and it's just, yeah. The reason why I hesitated a second on Jaden Daniels and N'Keal Harry having overlap is because Jaden Daniels is in his second season in the NFL, and N'Keal Harry's already gone through his entire NFL career. So my apologies on that. I had to think about that for a second. I was like, that's insane, because Daniels is still considered a young player in the league, and N'Keal Harry's just done with his career and has gone to 3 or 4 different teams. But that's what made those ASU teams special, right? They were difficult teams to beat, and there's still, I would not say this team has the likes of N'Keal Harry in college, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, who wasn't a big deal on that 2019 team, but Jaden Daniels, I'm not saying they have that here, but we have Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt, who played well enough to win last week, makes the plays we need him to make them. I got to go with ASU. I think that Jordan Tyson's a very capable receiver, obviously. He is their big star. He's a guy who is going to go for big yardage every single game. I'm going to go with ASU here. I expect a shootout, but I actually think Arizona State's going to be able to come out on top. They're at home. They have some momentum now. They're 1-0 in Big 12 play, and they are the reigning defending Big 12 champions. Can they repeat? It's going to be tough to beat Texas Tech, especially if their offense can get going again. We'll see what happens to their quarterback situation with Brendan Morton and Will Hammond, but I'm going to go with ASU to win the game at home and cover 2.5 points as well. But at this rate, I just play minus 135, 100%. Next up, we go to the other game on Friday. Oh, Corvallis, Oregon State hosts Houston. Ooh. I'm taking Houston to win, and I'm taking Houston to cover the points too. I don't, like, this could be This could probably say 20.5, and I'd probably still take Houston. How do you expect me to take Oregon State? Legitimate question. How would anybody take Oregon State in this condition right now? They're 0-4, and their loss to Cal now doesn't look as good, because your week 1 loss to California, it's like, all right, well, you got blown out, but at least Cal is going to make a run this season. Well, no, they just got blown out at San Diego State. We'll get into the woke agenda later. I'm very confused about Cal Berkeley. Oregon State should have beaten Fresno, but they didn't have a long snapper, so they lost. Texas Tech, they go to Lubbock, they get blown out, and they go to Eugene. Obviously, they got blown out. I get they're playing good teams, but this isn't really the team you want to play next. Houston's 3-0. And yeah, they beat Stephen F. Austin. They went to Rice and won. I was impressed by the Colorado game. Officiating was horrible in that game, but I'm not going to complain about that. Ryan Staub did not play well enough to win for Colorado, and Connor Wagman's playing good football. Connor Wagman's playing really good football. Right, he's done everything Houston's needed him to do this year. Guy who was at A&M last season, goes to the Big 12 now, and he's been phenomenal at Houston this year. He makes the plays when they need him to run. He had 83 yards rushing in the Colorado game. He can zip it as well. Houston's been good this season. I was hesitant and I was skeptical of their game going into the Colorado one. No, I've been sold on Houston for now. So this is not the game Oregon State wins. Oregon State's schedule is so brutal because they're playing in the Pac-2, right? They do have the 2 games against Wazoo this season. The way it's looking right now, I believe those 2 teams are probably going to split. I think Oregon State wins in Corvallis. I think Wazoo probably wins it in Pullman. But Oregon State, man, I mean, you go first 5 weeks, Cal, Fresno, Texas Tech, Oregon, Houston, and then, week 7, we get Lafayette. It's like you couldn't have booked that for week number 1. I don't know. I think Houston blows them out. I still really like Malik Murphy. I understand he had a horrible game against Oregon. He was so bad. Not entirely his fault that there's no time to throw the football and nobody's open. I mean, he goes 5 for 18 passing against the Oregon Ducks. But here's the thing. Oregon State couldn't get anything going offensively. They had 1 good drive at the start of the game, and they then proceeded to get 34 consecutive points put on their head. They did cover 34.5, though, so there's something. But they're not going to stand a chance in this Houston game. I get it's in Corvallis. It's a long trip for the Cougars. You got to go all the way down from down south all the way to kind of the Pacific Northwest up in Corvallis. It's a long flight. It's difficult because Houston time, the game starts at 9:30. It starts at 7:30 in Corvallis. I don't really care. I don't think the travel is going to play too much of a factor, especially when Oregon State's just bad. I'm so disappointed in this team because when we looked at them in week 1, I was really excited for Oregon State Beavers football. I actually thought they were going to be able to win, even with the schedule, maybe 7 or 8 games. Nope, they suck. Give me the Houston Cougars and Connor Wagman to walk in there and cover 11.5 points in Corvallis, Oregon. On to our next game, and we go to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We kick off this Saturday, 9 o'clock hour on ESPN, Georgia Tech and Wake Forest. It is an ACC matchup. Georgia Tech is one of 3 ACC teams ranked currently, is obviously them, the Miami Hurricanes, and the Florida State Seminoles. Georgia Tech goes on the road to take on the Demon Deacons this week. I have to go Georgia Tech. Why wouldn't I? Georgia Tech is a 15.5 point favorite on the road. They went up in the rankings after beating Temple, which is interesting. Good for them, I guess. I mean, everything you could think a Georgia Tech Temple game to be, it was. It was Georgia Tech running the ball all day long and getting anything they wanted on the ground against Temple. Winning at 45-24, obviously the highlight so far of the season for Georgia Tech is their big victory over the Clemson Tigers. But here's the thing now. How impressive is beating Clemson anymore? Because Clemson does nothing but lose. They almost lost to Troy, and obviously they lose to LSU, they lose to Georgia Tech, and last week they lose to Syracuse. I mean, I told you the Orange were going to go on the road and cover. Now, I didn't see the win entirely coming. I thought it was going to be close, but damn, Clemson's horrible. Something's got to give, though, next week when they go to Chapel Bill. Not this week, obviously, but October 4th, North Carolina and Clemson, I believe, on the CW network. That's going to be hilarious. That should get flexed to, I don't know, ESPN 8 The Ocho. I think Georgia Tech, though, against Wake Forest easily handles the Demon Deacons. Now, Wake Forest did not play last week. They have had the super long bye week, essentially, going into the Georgia Tech game because their last game was played on September 11th on a Thursday, and obviously they don't play last week, so you have now had Math, 16 days to get ready for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They could have a whole month and I wouldn't pick them. Nothing against Robbie Ashford. I don't think he's a horrible quarterback. I just don't think the entire team's that good. I think Damon Claiborne can run it, I think. This team, so far, what Wake Forest has done, they have beaten Kennesaw State by 1 point, which, in all fairness to them, Kennesaw is much better than I thought they were going to be. I don't know how, I know how they beat Arkansas State, but I was surprised they beat Arkansas State. Wake Forest then blows out West Carolina, big shocker, and then they lose to North Carolina State by 10 points in their last game. It was a game that they were actually winning in the first half and then proceeded to not be able to score in the second. I got to go with the Yellow Jackets here. We're easily taking Georgia Tech, and it's not really close for me. They're going to blow this team out. Anything that they want in the run game, they should be able to get. Hollywood Smothers ran the ball all over the place against Wake Forest. He had 24 carries for 164 yards. CJ Bailey doesn't really run it that much, so I can't give you a comp between Bailey and Haynes King. But Haynes King will have a ground game this week. There will be a lot of pathways for him to run, and same could be said about their lead back, Jamal Haynes. So we're easily taking Georgia Tech on the road. Wake Forest is so horrible. They're, right there with the worst teams in the ACC. We're talking about Stanford. We're talking about Cal. And we're talking about Clemson and obviously Virginia Tech. But I'm going to go with Georgia Tech to cover 15.5 points on the road in Winston-Salem. Just because the game's in North Carolina doesn't mean anything to me. It's Wake Forest. They have not been notable since Hartman left. I got to go with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. On to Big Noon Kickoff. How about those Illinois Fighting Illini? I mean, hey, you get blown out. It is by the way, Illinois just suffered the biggest blowout for a top 10 team in college football history against a team outside of the top 10. So I know what you're thinking. Oh, Georgia, TCU, well, they're both ranked in the top 10. They got blown out by number 19 Indiana by 53 points. I don't think Illinois is horrible. Now, I did say I don't think they deserve to be number 9 in the country. But if they were ranked 9th, why isn't Indiana ranked 9th? Make it make sense. Why is Indiana out of the top 10? They just won by 53 points against a top 10 school. I'll get into Indiana later. They're going to Iowa to take on the Hawkeyes. USC Illinois is going to be interesting. I actually think Illinois is going to cover 6.5 points. Hear me out now. USC didn't cover against Michigan State. Played late night game. Michigan State gets on the board early. They take an early lead. Blown coverage to Christian McCray down the field. And, Michigan State wasn't going to cover until Omari Kelly was wide open. No, actually, he wasn't wide open. He broke off a tackle and obviously ran wide open in the end zone. Aiden Childs takes a deep shot and just, goes for it all. Down by 21 with 2 minutes to go, and the backdoor cover's right there. So shout out to Sparty going out there and getting the job done at USC. I thought Michigan State played a pretty good football game until the fourth quarter happened. They went into the fourth quarter only down by 7. They were actually really in the game. Childs, I thought, played fairly well. USC ends up pulling away with that one. Jaden Mavia, as they're calling him. I'm so used to saying Maivia from his days over at UNLV. But Jaden Mavia is solid. I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. Mavia has played really well this season. He has made USC look very smart by their decision to say sayonara to Miller Moss and make him the guy. Mavia has played well. He played really well last week. They go on the road to Urbana-Champaign to take on the Illinois Fighting Illini, who could not get anything going last week. Guys, I'm here to tell you, though, that was not, Illinois sucks. That's Indiana's the best football team in the country. And Fernando Mendoza is the Heisman. He is. Fernando Mendoza is going to win the Heisman Trophy this season. If it's not Carson Beck, it's going to be Fernando. And oh, by the way, who's number 1 in the Heisman odds right now? Fernando. 14 touchdowns, 0 interceptions? Come on now. Fernando's just that good. But I don't think that game is a result of Illinois being bad. And sure, their only touchdown came on a blown coverage where future first round draft pick D'Angelo Pons just blew a coverage. Illinois is still a solid team. You can watch the game and say, Luke Altmaier doesn't do anything, gets sacked 10 times. They look horrible. Yeah, because Indiana made them look horrible. It's still not a horrible football team in Illinois. Now, were they too highly ranked? Sure, they were. But don't forget they beat Duke earlier in the year. And I get it, beating Duke's not some crazy win. I mean, obviously, they would have preferred to beat Indiana. But I think Illinois is able to keep the game close. I think USC's offense is going to have a lot of success. I'll say this, though. I don't think they're not going to have as much success as Indiana did. Another factor has to be the travel, right? I mean, USC, they've looked great at the Coliseum this year, but that's exactly that. They've only played at the Coliseum and Northwestern. No, sorry, Purdue. Oregon went to Northwestern. And that Purdue game, they only beat Purdue by 16 points. Now, I know if they beat Illinois by 16 points, they cover, but Purdue's not on the level of Illinois. At least, I hope they're not. They can't be. I know USC's got a great offense. I like what they're doing with the run game, obviously. You lose Woody Marks, obviously, to the NFL, so now you're running both Wayman Jordan and Eli Sanders. Mekhi Lemon's a great product. Jacoby Lane's great as well. You've got a couple tight ends, and they're trying to tell us, and I guess it's true, that it's the deepest tight end core Kiffin's ever had. Not Kiffin. With Lake McCree and Walker Lyons, obviously Walker Lyons, brother of Ryder Lyons, who is going to be, I believe, a big deal coming up soon. But yeah, they say it's the most stacked tight end room Lincoln Riley's ever had in his career. I don't know why I said Lane Kiffin earlier. USC looks good, but I think Illinois covers. I think they do. I think Illinois' offense will keep up this week. Keeping up with USC is difficult. But it's a road game for USC. It's always difficult going on the road in the Big 12. Illinois, for as badly as they lost last week, they're still ranked, and they get big noon kickoff. So there should be a lot of hype for them going into this week. I know Utah got big noon kickoff, and they did not win, but I'm going Illinois plus 6.5. If you want it, I'll just say this now. This won't be in the best bets, though. So I'm probably not going to go to this later in the week, but here it is. On to our next game. Here are those damn Fighting Irish. The Irish are back, and they're on ABC at 9 o'clock to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Notre Dame with a belt-to-ass performance against the Purdue Boilermakers last week in South Bend. It wasn't close. And I'm glad NBC did the right thing and, English is difficult sometimes. They said they got rid of their they got rid of the contract with NBC, I guess I'll put it like that. Not for Notre Dame games for the entire year, but they put the game on Peacock, all right, when the Indiana games started. Thankfully, we didn't have to sit through a boring fourth quarter between Purdue and Notre Dame. Notre Dame looked great, right? Jadarian Price is the kick return touchdown, so he's got 3 total in the game. Jeremiah Love runs for 2 touchdowns and for 105 yards. Actually, Jadarian had 4 touchdowns, right? Yeah, Notre Dame looked great, but you're playing Purdue. I think CJ Carr is adapting. He's looking better. When Notre Dame's on, though, I don't know how many teams can really match this run game. And not just match the run game, stuff the run game. It is a great rushing offense that Notre Dame has. With not just Jeremiah Love, who again runs for 154 yards, but also, right, with Jadarian Price. It's a good team. It's a really good team. They lost, obviously, their first 2 games of the season to A&M, to Miami, and we'll see where their playoff, future lies. They're still going to need help, even if they can beat an SEC squad like Arkansas, but I'm sure it doesn't help Notre Dame that Arkansas lost last week. Now, they were in prime position to win the football game. They had the ball within the Memphis 10-yard line with a minute to go, down by 1 point, and Mike Washington fumbled. Arkansas loses the football game. Memphis gets it at home. Huge victory for the former Nevada Wolfpack quarterback Brendan Lewis and the guys over in Memphis, Tennessee. But a heartbreaker for Arkansas. And Taylor Green did not play a perfect game. He played nothing close to a perfect game. But Arkansas is now back at home, obviously, in Fayetteville for this one. Fayetteville, not Fayette's. I'm going Notre Dame, though. I'm going with the Irish. Arkansas, we've seen lose now, not once but twice. They lost to Memphis. They lose the week prior to Ole Miss. And sure, the Ole Miss game was close, and I think Ole Miss is actually pretty good. They play LSU. It's another big game this week. Obviously, our Ole Miss coming off their dominant victory over Tulane, where Lane Kiffin was so bored, he threw his own player an alley-oop. They have, the portable basketball hoop out there after they forced a turnover, and Lane Kiffin got so bored, he threw his own guy an oop because they're up by 50 points. That's awesome. Way to go, Green Wave. You really made us proud on Saturday. It's okay. There's a chance that team still makes the playoffs, too, which is insane. But I don't know, the American's so good. Hell, look at East Carolina, right? They haven't lost a game in the American yet this year. Anyways, though, I got to go with Notre Dame here. I think the Fighting Irish will get it done. It's a good team. They've got talent, right? Beyond just Love and Price, you got Jordan Faison, you got Malachi Fields as well. It's a good team. And they're going on the road. I know that's going to hurt them a little bit, but this is an Arkansas team that's just lost back-to-back, and it's still Notre Dame. They're still a very well-coached team, and CJ Carr is adapting to being a starting quarterback for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I'm taking Notre Dame to win the game on the road and cover 6.5 points in the process, or 5.5 points in the process. On to our next one, we go to a Big Ten matchup. On the Big Ten Network, we go to Huntington Bank Stadium. The Minnesota Golden Gophers host the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So we picked against Rutgers last week. That was actually in our best bets. We took the Iowa Hawkeyes, and Iowa returns the opening kick for a touchdown. It looked a little bit sketchy at points because Iowa couldn't play any defense against Rutgers. But you know what happened in the second half? Yeah, the Hawkeyes locked in defensively. Completely locked in, only gave up one touchdown the entire second half against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They block a Jay Patel kick as well. Patel actually missed 2 in that game, and Patel had been pretty good for Rutgers up until that point. But Rutgers loses the football game by 10 points at home, and now you get the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And it's a Minnesota team now where I don't really know how to put them. Like, I don't know how to think about this team. You lost to Cal 2 weeks ago. And initially when the game happened, I was like, oh, okay, wow, Cal's just really good this season, right? How about Jerron Kewe Sagapolete? He's really good, right? They're 3-0 now. They beat Oregon State. They're probably going to go beat San Diego State. Look at that schedule. You're like, okay, wait, maybe they might go 12-0, actually. What team? Hold on. They don't play Miami. They don't play Clemson, who I don't care anymore about them, but they don't play Miami. They don't play Florida State. They get SMU at home. Maybe Cal is going to get in the playoffs, maybe. And then they lose to San Diego State 34-0. How does that happen? We'll get to them later. They're playing Boston College at 12:30. But that's my thing with Minnesota. You lost that team. And I get it. Travel's a bitch. You're from the north. You got to go all the way to Cal for a 7:30 start time. That's obviously 12:30 your time. Yeah, they're central. But now, I mean, like, my goodness, you go into Big Ten play after losing to that team who just lost to the San Diego State Aztecs, who, and again, we can do this for days, but the Aztecs who lost brutally to Wazoo. Yikes, man. Oh, goodness. So Minnesota's 2-1. Initially, the week 1 win over Buffalo, I was like, oh, close game, but the Buffalo Bulls are really good. Well, Buffalo just lost to Troy at home. Are we serious? Like, really? But Buffalo yesterday, or on Saturday, blew a 17-0 lead in the fourth quarter. CJ Agbana would never, okay? CJ Agbana would throw for more than 100 yards, okay? Or I guess for 150 total, Buffalo did. That was a joke what the Bulls did, making me look horrible. You know, they're the best team in the MAC. They lose to Troy. They could still win the MAC because that's a non-con game, and everyone in the MAC loses to everybody, but how do you lose to Troy at home? Oh, my goodness. More on Buffalo later. I might be going back to the well with that one. But I don't know how to rate Minnesota now because you barely beat a Buffalo team that just lost to Troy at home. You lose to California on the road, and you're playing Rutgers, who was really competitive with Iowa until Iowa, again, decided to play defense. But Rutgers didn't look bad in that game. Yeah, they're going to give up points, but I don't love Minnesota's offense. Max Brosmer, obviously the former New Hampshire quarterback who transferred to Minnesota. Well, he's in the NFL now. He's backing up Carson Wentz in Minnesota and J.J. McCarthy for that matter. So, right, Drake Lindsey's your guy. And Lindsey's played all right so far, but it's not a guy that I'm over the moon about, per se. I got to go Rutgers here. And not just to cover. I'm taking them to win. Now, if I were to make a bet for this game, I'm probably not laying plus 175. I'm probably taking the 5.5 points because if Minnesota wins, I do believe it's going to be a really competitive game. I get it. The game's in Minnesota, and that's, it's a trip for obviously Rutgers coming all the way from New Jersey. But I think Rutgers covers here. I don't think Minnesota is that much better than this team. Hell, I don't even know if Minnesota is better than Rutgers. I still think Iowa's defense is good. I truthfully think that. And obviously they showed that in the second half. You're able to score 21 points against Iowa's defense in the first half, and you have the lead for most of that first half too. That'll play. Sure, they lose, but I think Rutgers is very capable this season, man. I'm taking the Rutgers Scarlet Knights to cover and win on the road. I wouldn't bet the win, but to cover, I don't mind that at all. Next up, we go to the ACC once more, as we go to the JRA. Why do I always think it's JRA? JMA. Am I getting like Mandela affected here? Like I could have sworn it was JRA. The JMA Wireless Dome, obviously over in upstate New York, in Syracuse, New York, for the Syracuse Orange and the Duke Blue Devils. Syracuse is a 5.5-point underdog at home. Are we serious about this one? Really? You're gonna give us this line with Syracuse? Okay. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Angeli's out for the year. That does suck. That's horrible. Angeli was. I don't think he was going to have a Kyle McCord-esque year, but it was starting to feel that way a little bit, you know. And different narrative, obviously, right? McCord gets pushed out of Ohio State, gets scapegoated, honestly, for Marvin Harrison not winning the Triple Crown. It felt like, you know, and what's happening to Marv right now in the NFL, I don't know. Had a terrible game in Santa Clara yesterday against the 49ers, but different circumstance, right? Angeli doesn't beat out CJ Carr, or he didn't, you know, they basically told him you're not going to beat out CJ Carr. He goes to Syracuse and he's been slinging it. He tears, he tore his Achilles, right? Pretty sure that's the injury. Yeah, he has a torn Achilles. That's brutal, man. He'll be out all this year. He will be able to redshirt this junior year now, medical redshirt, so he will remain a junior going into 2026. We'll see what we get out of him. Now, in the offseason, there actually was a little bit of a quarterback competition between Angeli and the backup quarterback and now starter over in Ricky Collins. Ricky Collins is a guy that transferred in from LSU, never got to start Louisiana State, but came in now as a sophomore, and now he's going to get to start for Syracuse. And if there's ever a system you want to go and jump into as a quarterback, it's Syracuse. They throw the ball all the time. Their run game is usually not horrible. They don't run it much, so when they do run it, they're able to pick up big yards. They spread everybody out in the field. They go no huddle most of the game, and they put pressure on a defense. We'll see how Ricky Collins adapts. But Syracuse, after they were told to do sprints after their game in the Wireless Dome, are undefeated. They're 3-1, right? Losing week 1 to Tennessee. But one hell of a win for Syracuse. You go on the road and beat Clemson. I don't care how bad Clemson's supposed to be. Going to Death Valley and winning is a difficult task. Syracuse does it, and now they host the Duke Blue Devils. Guys, I know the Angeli loss sucks. I think Ricky Collins is capable. This is a guy who was pretty highly recruited, if I'm not mistaken, coming out of high school. I'm not the biggest high school, watcher, but, and if this means anything, he was a 4-star product coming out of high school. There's a reason he goes to Louisiana State out of high school. He was a Baton Rouge guy, but still, you got to be worth something. And there was a competition in the offseason between Ricky Collins and Steve Angeli, so I don't think the drop-off in play is that huge. I think obviously there's a reason Steve was starting, but you get Ricky Collins now against Duke, a Duke team that finds a way to beat North Carolina State, but struggled to beat North Carolina State. They could not get away from that team, and NC State was in it the entire game. They took a 20-7 lead against Duke. Duke then goes on to score 21 points unanswered. Hollywood Smothers tries his hardest to keep his team in the game, has a 51-yard touchdown in there. Ultimately, right, the Duke Blue Devils win the game 45-33, but a fun game that was won by Darian Mensah and the Blue Devils. That's the game, though, that I was watching, and I'm glad Duke won. We had Duke, obviously. We bet on Duke. I'm watching that game like, all right, I'm glad we survived. That's how I felt getting out of that game. Glad we survived that one. Because, I know NC State, turned the ball over quite a bit. CJ Bailey threw three picks. He's going to sling it. But, man, it felt like NC State was right there the entire game, because they were. Syracuse should be able to score. We saw NC State score all those points, and now Duke's got to go on the road. Are they capable of scoring in their own right? 100%. But what happened the last time this Duke team went on the road? Oh, yeah. They lost at Tulane. They will lose at Syracuse. I don't care. Collins is starting. He will find a way to get it done. I'm taking Syracuse to win. You can keep your points, but plus 5.5 is there as well. Give me the orange. Actually, no. I'm done saying you can keep the points. I will happily take the points. Plus 5.5 for Syracuse. That gives us a just in case right there. So if we lose by a field goal, we're okay. Syracuse plus 5.5 at home at the Dome to go out there and cover against Duke. I, though, do believe they will win. Let's now go to, let's stay in the ACC. Pittsburgh versus Louisville. Pittsburgh's at home, and they are 3.5-point dogs. Am I crazy to say I'm going with an underdog in a third consecutive game? Guys, Louisville hasn't been that good this year. They haven't had to go on the road. Miller Moss has not played well. Again, like I mentioned earlier, there's a reason they pushed Miller Moss out from Avia. And obviously, Mavi was younger, and Miller Moss, this is his senior season, but his senior season's been underwhelming. Guys, he's thrown for 690 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. This guy was next up after Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams doesn't play the Holiday Bowl. In comes Miller Moss, and here we are. He hasn't played well this season yet. The Bowling Green game, sure, but his last 2 games against JMU, actually, no, the Bowling Green game was their last game, but still, it's Bowling Green. You're going on the road to take on Pitt. Now, I know Pitt just lost to West Virginia. Guys, rivalry games are rivalry games. Anything can happen. Did Pitt play well enough to win that game? They did. They just lost in an OT. I still think Eli Holstein's a very capable quarterback. I think we forget with Eli Holstein sometimes. He had all that success last year and had Pitt undefeated as a freshman. He's a sophomore now. Holstein's only going to continue to get better as he stays and plays more football. By the time he's a junior, by the time he's a senior, Holstein will be a prominent name in college football. Believe you me. I'm willing to throw a lot out of what we saw 2 weeks ago with Pitt. It's the backyard brawl. It's a rivalry game. It's in Morgantown. Circumstances are difficult for that squad. It always is. Just like how it's difficult for WVU to go on the road for the backyard brawl and play in Pittsburgh. It is what it is. It's a rivalry game. I'm going to throw it out. I think Pittsburgh can beat Louisville this week. I think they can. I think the home field advantage for Pittsburgh is going to play huge dividends for them. And at the same time, I think Miller Moss's lack of high-level play is going to kind of hurt Louisville at the same time. I'm not telling you Holstein's going to go out here and 100% just outplay Miller Moss and make Miller Moss look horrible. That's not where I'm going here. I just believe Pittsburgh is going to be able to find a way to win. Louisville's a 3-0 team this season, but their best win's JMU, and that's not a bad win because JMU is very capable. But your other ones are Eastern Kentucky and Bowling Green. For Pittsburgh, you lose to WVU, but what do you do in the 2 weeks prior? Well, I can't really tout their victories. They beat Duquesne and Central Michigan, the Chippewas. It is what it is. I'm going Pittsburgh here. I still like what Holstein can do. I know they lost last week, but it's a game, or 2 weeks ago. It's a game they should have won. It's a game they should have won. Desmond Reed has not had the presence or just really, he hasn't had that takeover ability for Pittsburgh like he had last year, especially when they were going through their huge 8-win, 9-win undefeated run to start the season. Maybe it was only 7, actually. I felt like it was longer. But I'm still going Pittsburgh to win the game at home. I don't think Miller Moss has been too incredible this year, and I do believe Pitt's able to win it at home. So Pittsburgh, especially coming off the bye week, they've had a lot of time to prepare for Louisville. At the same time, right, Louisville just played last week against Bowling Green. I'm going with the Pitt Panthers to win at home. But if you're offering us 3.5 points, I'll take the 3.5 points. Give me Pitt at home. Next up, let's go to the Big 12. So obviously you're going to see a bunch of conference matchups now. You're still going to get the random games like, I don't know, Vandy's playing Utah State in a couple minutes as well. We'll get to that soon. But for the most part, you're going to see conference games now. We're in September, and that's where we get going now, right? Cincinnati takes on Kansas. First of 2 back-to-back Big 12 games in the are at the 9 o'clock hour. Kansas is a 6.5-point favorite at home in Lawrence against Cincinnati, and it just makes sense. Kansas is a good football team. This is a squad that's 3-1. The Fresno State victory continues to age well. Look at Fresno's big victory on the road, late night spot against Hawaii. We'll get into Hawaii later. That was a weird one. But Kansas wins week 1 against Fresno. They beat Wagner. They lose to Mizzou on the road, but that's an SEC program. No shame in that. And then they beat West Virginia 41-10. We just talked about, Pitt lost to West Virginia. They had struggles in the backyard brawl. Well, Kansas blew them out by 31 points last week. It wasn't a competition. And they won the game by that many points without Jalen Daniels really doing anything. And Jalen Daniels threw the ball at a 50% completion rate. He went 12 for 24 in his passing attempts, and they still won 41-10. Now, they took advantage of some bad and some mishaps, I'll say, by the Mountaineers. And LaShawn Williams had a great day on the ground, but Kansas dominates. And that's just kind of what Kansas can do. If they get the ball moving and they get the ball rolling their way, it's going to quickly unravel for their opponents. They're taking on the Bearcats this week. The Cincinnati Bearcats, who are 2-1. They lost that competitive close game at Arrowhead week 1 against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and then back-to-back victories against Bowling Green and Northwestern State. This is a team that is led by that pass game featuring Brendan Sorbs, their starting quarterback and former Indiana Hoosier. The problem with Cincinnati is that's all they do. They don't do anything but throw the ball. Why? Oh, they can't do anything else. They don't really have a run game. Most games, Brendan Sorbsy is their leading rusher. He's their quarterback. So it is a pass-heavy approach, and it's a system that Brendan Sorbsy has been really good at. It's It's a difference from what he had to do at Indiana. And truth be told, I thought Sorbsy was pretty good at Indiana in 2023. Obviously, he got pushed out with the new regime with Curt Cignetti, and he didn't want to sit for Curtis Rourke, and it just didn't make sense for Sorbsy to stay. He's found a home now in the Big 12 with the Bearcats. But Brendan Sorbsy at Cincinnati has been a solid quarterback, right? Had a decent 2024. 2025 has been pretty solid as well. I think it's going to be tough for Cincinnati on the road. Kansas is a good team. They are. They're a good team with a good defense. I'm not going to say they've played a good offense yet, other than Mizzou, because they haven't. So my point being, they haven't beaten a good offense just yet. And they haven't shut down a good offense. But is Cincinnati on the level offensively as Mizzou? No, I don't think so. They beat Fresno and dominate Fresno. They dominate West Virginia. And again, they do that without Jalen Daniels really needing to do much. Yeah, he throws for 3 touchdowns, but I mean, that's a fourth of his completions, right? You had a kickoff return in that game for the Jayhawks. Like, again, when games start to go Kansas's way, it continues to go their way, right? And like, it's just, they are a momentum-based squad. I think they beat Cincinnati. I think they do. Is it my favorite bet of the week? No. I would not bet this one early in the morning. Because the Bearcats can stay in football games. They do know how to score. They can get into those weird defensive battles like they had against Nebraska, even though I don't expect this game. It's a Big 12 game. I don't think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, and especially it's a Big 12 game between Kansas and Cincinnati. I expect the run game to be huge, though, out of the Jayhawks, right? Last week, it was all LaShawn Williams, and I expect LaShawn Williams to have another really good game this week, right? Because of the absence of Daniel Highshaw with his only 2 carries, obviously, against WVU. I think Kansas will be fine. It's a running back core where everyone can really benefit, and at the same time, you need Jalen Daniels to run. He can do exactly that too, and he will make all the right plays you need him to make in the pocket. They just don't ask him to do much because that's just not their offense. Give me Kansas at home to win and cover against the Cincinnati Bearcats, -6.5 for the Jayhawks at home. Next up, we go to the other Kansas team. I'm talking about the K-State Wildcats. How are they 5.5-point favorites? Who made this line? Who made it? Who made the line? Because I thought I was reading it wrong when I saw it. So initially, I was on ESPN. I'm doing my, I don't want to call it pregame, but I'm getting ready for the video, right? I'm looking at all the games. I'm getting used to the schedule this week. And I see K-State at home against UCF. I'm like, oh, okay. Great spot for Central Florida, Scott Frost wants me to call them UCF. Wants everybody to call them UCF. So great spot for UCF. You're coming off a dominant victory over Chapel Bill, right, in North Carolina, who's just not good. But this team's got momentum. I like this spot for UCF a lot. I'm thinking, okay, they'll probably be a slight favorite here. We might be able to get them at good plus money or even close to even money. And then I see, K-State -5.5 on ESPN. I'm like, it's probably just wrong. So I, go on over to FanDuel and oh no, this is a line. Why? Do we think the week off for K-State's just going to make them all of a sudden better? Is that what we think? That, they got a week off, they played Arizona, they lost in Tucson, but now they're going to be fine. Avery Johnson threw for 88 yards against the Arizona Wildcats. 88. This is a guy that's supposed to be on the higher level of things in terms of quarterbacks in the Big 12 and just quarterbacks in college football. And you go 13 for 29 passing for 88 yards? You don't run the ball at all. And they had a 75-yard touchdown from Jace Brown. Yeah, he ran the ball once all game long. It was that one play to kick off the second half. And K-State, big touchdown. You cut the lead to 7. And they tied it eventually, but what happens? Arizona puts 2 drives together. They can't finish those 2 drives, but they kick field goals. And yes, Arizona wins the football game 23-17. K-State's just not good. Their defense looked better. They stuffed Fafita. They limited a lot of what Fafita was able to do. Their offense isn't good. Central Florida last week, they beat up on a bad offense. What is North Carolina? Bad offense. What is K-State? A horrible offense. Boom. And the same thing's going to repeat itself. The game's not in Orlando. I don't care. UCF gets to go on the road now to play K-State. It's your first division matchup if you're UCF this season. You're 3-0 rolling into this game. You're playing with a lot of momentum. I get it. The Jack State win was not what you wanted it to be. But you right those wrongs because you beat up on North Carolina by a bigger margin in which you beat Jacksonville State. So you're feeling it now. You're undefeated still, right? You're playing good football. Taven Jackson's playing well. Shout out to the former Hoosier, him and Brendan Sorbsy, right? Jackson's a good dual threat guy. You beat up on a bad offense last week, you're going to beat up on a bad offense again this week. UCF can't run, North Carolina can't throw the ball. Whether it be Gio Lopez, whether it be Max Johnson, they both played. They both did not have good games. We expect Avery Johnson to have a good game. Guys, just because the game's in Kansas doesn't mean they're going to win. What happened the last time K-State played at home? Oh, wait. They lost to Army. No disrespect, shout out to Army, but like, come on now. What happened before that? You beat UND by 3 points. The University of North Dakota, not even the better school in North Dakota. No, not the Bison, not Fargo. You lose to UND. It's Trace Eagle staff. Now he plays basketball. I don't know. I can't take K-State here. I can't do it. I gotta take Central Florida to win the game. Oh, Scott Frost can be mad. Go. You can't call it Central Florida. I'm taking UCF to go on the road and win. I think Central Florida is able to get it done. I like what Taven Jackson's been doing, and I like what UCF's just been putting together, man. It's a huge victory last week against North Carolina. And really, the parallels are right there. You're playing a horrible football team again. Horrible offense. Defense is better here, I think. I don't know, like, the daunted Belichick defense. Oh, North Carolina sucks. Belichick, don't get me started. I think K-State's going to get obliterated this week. Their offense won't be able to score, and UCF will find ways to get in the end zone. I got to go with the Knights this week. Give me Central Florida on the road to win. Yes, another underdog. Why are they dogs? I don't know. You want my favorite bet at the 9 o'clock hour? Bingo right here. It is. It's right here. Central Florida. It probably will be on the best bet, so stay tuned for Friday. Next up, let's stay in the 9 o'clock hour. We have the South Alabama Jaguars taking on the North Texas Mean Green. Shall we continue with bad football? Shall we continue? South Alabama lost to Coastal Carolina. Oh, okay, they go to Myrtle Beach. They go on the road. Oh, they go on the teal field. No. You host Coastal Carolina. They come to South Alabama, and you lose the football game 38-20 against a team that can't score. You lose to Tad Hudson and the Chanticleers. Credit to Tad Hudson coming in doing his job. It's his second career start, but man, I mean, how demoralizing is that if you're South Alabama? You lose Gio Lopez, obviously, in the offseason. You basically assign Bishop Davenport the starting job now, and it has not been good in South Alabama in 2025. You barely get by Morgan State in week 1. You then lose 3 straight. But here's the thing. You're competitive against Tulane, which maybe that should have sounded the alarms for me. And again, Tulane, I can't be too bad on those guys. I can't be too down on those guys. They just lost to Ole Miss. It's Ole Miss. We'll be fine. I think. I don't know. And then the thing is, South Alabama went to Auburn, lost by 16 points. Now, I know they just lost at Oklahoma, and we want to talk about Heisman candidates at John Maytier. But how do you lose by more points to Coastal at home than you do to Auburn on the road? Like, that's just one of those games that make it make sense. Now they're 0-1 in Sun Belt play, and now you take on the Americans North Texas. Maybe the best offense in the American Conference. And the Americans so fun, man. There's so many high-scoring teams. North Texas, Navy, hell, East Carolina with Caden Hauser, Jalen Kitna and UAB. And these are not even great teams, but they score. Tulane, USF, Memphis, Rice. Everybody's UTSA with Owen McCown. Everybody scores points in the American, other than like Charlotte. I don't know why Charlotte caught a stray there, but yeah, the 49ers can't really score. They played the Thursday night game last week. Yeah, no. That's the exception. Everybody scores in the American Conference. How is a team at the Sun Belt, a bottom-of-the-barrel Sun Belt team, going to keep up with the team in the American Conference? And oh, by the way, the game's at North Texas. Chandler Morris's replacement, obviously, Drew Mestamaker, has been really good. He has not thrown an interception in 2025. He has over 1,000 yards, and he's got 10 touchdowns. And oh, by the way, they can run the ball too. Mackenzie McGill has over 270 yards this season. This will be a straight-on sprint for North Texas in this game. I don't know how their game in Kalamazoo against Western Michigan was so competitive. They only beat the Broncos by 3 points. I don't know how that happened, but especially a West Michigan team that doesn't throw the football. I'm like, can't throw the football. West Michigan and them go to overtime. You know, West Michigan scores first with a field goal. North Texas ends up winning the game with the touchdown. It is what it is. North Texas is an undefeated football team. They will beat South Alabama, especially the way South Alabama's playing right now, can anybody trust the Jaguars to win? I certainly can't. I got to go North Texas here. How is South Alabama going to be able to keep up? And it's not like the line's like 21. It's, guys, North Texas wins by 2 touchdowns. We win. Coastal covered this line at South Alabama last week. You tell me North Texas, who beat Wazoo by 49 points at home, can't beat South Alabama by 14 or hell 13? I'm not going to hype you up on Wazoo, but come on now. If you're beating Wazoo 59-10, you're beating South Alabama by over 12.5 points. This is light work on ESPNU. Give me the North Texas Mean Green to dominate at home in Denton, Texas against the South Alabama Jaguars. Next up, they miss Gio Lopez. They really do. Next up, we go to the final game of the 9 o'clock hour. Get ready for some action. Ohio versus Ohio, as the Bowling Green Falcons go on the road to take on the Ohio Bobcats. For as much hype as the Ohio Bobcats have gotten in 2025 because of Parker Navarro, because of their win against the West Virginia Mountaineers, because of their competitive game in New Jersey against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, you let the Gardner-Webb running Bulldogs score 35 points on you? 35 points for Gardner-Webb. A Gardner-Webb team that was actually winning in the second quarter 21-17. What? Ohio scores in their last drive to make it a 52-35 game, but it was a 10-point margin with 8 minutes to go. Of course, we don't talk about the FBS versus FCS games because I automatically think, oh, okay, I mean, the odds are always crazy in terms of spreads. There's no reason to go over them. Now, San Jose State struggled against an FCS school last week, but that's the Idaho Vandals. Ohio has a competitive game with Gardner-Webb, which concerns me. Not because, their offense scored 52 points. That's great. That's what I expect out of Parker Navarro, Chase Hendricks, and those guys, that they are able to score. What I am more concerned about is your defense. Now, I know Bowling Green's offense is not the best. It's not. You lose to Louisville last week. You scored 17 points. You beat Liberty, but you only scored 23. They're not really a team that's going to run it up on you because what is Drew Pine in 2025 is the question. I don't know. I mean, I will go over Drew Pine every single week. Drew Pine was playing college football in 2020 during COVID. And he's still playing college football now on his 4th team. This is his 6th year of college football. It's kind of ridiculous as he's gone from Notre Dame to ASU to Mizzou to Bowling Green. But, get your money. Get your limited NIL money here, being the Connor Bazelak replacement. That's cool. That's cool. No Harold Fannin, obviously, here now. But I think Bowling Green's able to keep it kind of close. Their defense isn't bad. Everything we've seen out of Bowling Green, and sure, the Liberty game, right? Liberty misses some field goals, some gimmies, but Bowling Green does stifle that Liberty offense. And I get it, Liberty's not the best squad, but every game that Bowling Green's played so far, with the exception of Louisville, and that's what I guess is a little impressive out of Miller Moss and the guys over there in Kentucky, but every game they play is low scoring. Every game that they play is somewhat close, but, they find ways to beat Liberty. They find a way to beat Lafayette. Offensively, am I impressed with Bowling Green? I'm sure as hell not. I don't like what they have going offensively because Drew Pine can't win you a football game, really. It's everything around Drew Pine, and he's kind of a facilitator, game manager, where if, again, everyone's put in the right position for him, okay, Pine can lead you to victory. He's not a guy that single-handedly is going to take over the game and win the game for you himself. That's just not what he is, unfortunately, right? But I look at Ohio, you gave up 35 to Gardner-Webb, and sure, again, can Bowling Green score that many points? I mean, can they? Maybe. Will they? No. But it's just the fact that that game was so competitive and the fact that the offense did have to score 52 points to feel comfortable with that lead. Again, they have the ball at the end of the game and, okay, we have 45. Let's make sure we score 7 more because this game's not over just yet. That's concerning to me. And again, I get it. Stylistically, Bowling Green's going to have to score some. The line's 10.5 points. It's a lot of points for a conference game, 2 Ohio teams, and for a Bowling Green team who did go 7-5 last year. I know, again, very different. They had Bazelak, they had Harold Fannin, but I think Bowling Green's able to keep this game close this week against a team that is favored to do very well in the Mid-American, right? There's no one front runner in the MAC this season. If I had to guess, it would be Ohio just because of their victory so far against West Virginia. But in this spot, yes, I have to go with Bowling Green to cover to win the game. I'd be surprised if Ohio doesn't do it, but that doesn't concern me at all. So I'm going with the Bowling Green Falcons to cover the game on the road, not win. To cover the game on the road, plus 10.5 for Bowling Green. You can do what you want with the The money line, I would not throw it in a parlay or nothing. Give me Bowling Green to cover on the road. All right, we got through the 9 o'clock hour, so it's lock in now for more college football. 9:45, Vandy in Nashville is hosting the Utah State Aggies. 22.5 points. It feels like a lot. It does. And I get it. Vandy's coming off their dominant victory over Georgia State. Good for them, right? I don't think Diego Pavia has gotten his date yet with Tate McRae, so, we're pulling for you, pal. I just hope that Theo Vaughn hasn't gone a date with your mother just yet because, we're cheering for you, Diego. You're supposed to get your end of the bargain, I guess. Go get him, sport. But Vandy's back after a blowout last week. Maybe that's why they put 70 points on Georgia State, right? Diego, he was fuming. Oh, I got there for 240 yards. Where's my date with Tate McRae? They beat Georgia State 70-21. How about TJ Finley, man? He didn't play that poorly, but man, TJ Finley, we talk about, quarterbacks who've been around. Yeah, TJ Finley, brother, 6 different schools in 6 years. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. Anyways, Vandy dominates Georgia State like expected. Vanderbilt is a top 25 team in the country. I actually think Utah State's able to keep it somewhat close. I like the Aggies quite a bit. I do. I'm willing to put Utah State in that somewhat elite tier in the Mountain West, right? I'm willing to put them in, that Fresno State tier with Boise State, with UNLV. Normally, for most of the year, I've had San Jose State in that tier, even through their L's, but I can't anymore after barely getting by the Vandals. I know Idaho's not a horrible team coming out of the Big Sky, but come on now. I can't put you on as an elite squad in the Mountain West anymore after that one. Which makes the Stanford game a little confusing later in the video, but we'll get to that once we get there. In this game, I gotta go with Utah State to cover because I look at this team's ability to score, and they did play A&M earlier this year. They went to A&M and lost the game by 22 points, and that's why I believe this line set at 22.5 as well. Can Vanderbilt beat Utah State by more than Texas A&M? No, I don't think so. A&M's a good team. We've seen it. They beat Notre Dame just 2 weeks ago. Marcel Reed's capable. It's a good offense. It's a good defense. Defense leaves a lot to be desired sometimes. But Utah State stays in that game. Are they ever threatening Texas A&M in terms of the final result and the final outcome? No, they're not. Right? I mean, you know pretty much throughout that entire game that Texas A&M is going to win. But Utah State scores 22, and I like Bryson Barnes quite a bit. I do. I think Utah State needs to accept the fact that they should become the Utah bounce back school. So if I'm Utah State, I'm throwing some money at Isaac Wilson in the offseason. I've said it for quite a bit now, but it just makes sense. Same parallel as Bryson Barnes, Utah quarterback. Hell, your brother plays in the NFL. Your brother was, a legend at Brigham Young, one of the better talents I've ever seen in college football. I'm still a Zach Wilson truther. All right, don't get me wrong. He needs to get his shot over Tua, okay? He needs to get his shot, and he will be fine. He will take over the Dolphins this season, and just wait in Week 9 when Zach Wilson's launching balls 55 yards downfield to Tyreek Hill. Anyways, that's what I would do if I'm Utah State because they have a good program building, in my opinion. I like what they're doing. I like what Bryson Barnes is doing. Bryson Barnes in his senior year has been really good for this school. He's been great. 280-plus yard performances in back-to-back games against Air Force and McNeese. They're not supposed to beat Air Force. At least that game's supposed to be a lot closer than it actually was. Utah State was a home dog against the Air Force Falcons. What do? They put up 49 points in them. They beat them by 19. Bryson Barnes throws for 5 touchdowns. The Utah State Aggies are good. It's a good football team this season. They are going to score. Is their defense not great? No, it's not. But I don't really mind Utah State kind of getting into a shootout with Vanderbilt here. Make Vandy put up a bunch of points on you to win. Make Vandy go out there and make them put up another 70-point performance like they did last week. If they do it, you tip your hat. Good game. They're not putting up 70 points this week because unlike what Georgia State did in the second half, and that was, or just throughout the entire game, what Georgia State would do would just be kind of, lay over and let them kind of control the entire game. That's especially what happened in the second half. Utah State's going to remain competitive. I know Georgia State scored first. Who cares? Utah State's going to be competitive in this football game. They will stay in it. The line last week for Vandy and Georgia State was 26.5 for Vandy, and obviously they easily covered. I believe Utah State's going to cover it. Is this crazy to say Bryson Barnes' offense? Well, no, I know Bryson Barnes' offense at Utah State's better than Georgia State's, but I think Bryson Barnes is better than TJ Finley. Finley's got all the talent in the world, but has he put it together? No. I know that's kind of just a random comp I just made, but yeah, I'm definitely going with Utah State here. I'm taking the Aggies to cover on the road. I think Vandy's a good school, good program. They're, they're 18th ranked team in the country. That's great. They'll get their tougher matchups later in the season. They get Bama coming up in a couple weeks, I think. Right? I think I saw that somewhere. Next week they get Bama. Great. We'll see what happens to Bama this week. But yeah, I'm going to go with Utah State on the road here. I think the Aggies cover 22.5 against the Commodores. Next up, let's go to the 10 o'clock hour as we have Eastern Michigan going on the road to take on Central Michigan. The battle of MAC Michigan games commences, right? East Michigan, Central Michigan, and then West Michigan obviously gets involved and gets into the swing of things in a little bit as well in terms of against these two teams. So on Saturday, we get the Chippewas versus the Eagles from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I'm going with CMU, okay? I'm not going to leave you hanging here. Quite easily, I'm going to go with Central Michigan here. East Michigan, are they coming off win? They are. They win on their weird gray field against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Shout out to Noah Kim, continuing to chase the dream. Dante McMillan had a great rushing game for the Eastern Michigan Eagles. They find a way to beat Daniel Beal and Louisiana. That was a back and forth, way more fun game than I expected it to be. East Michigan wins it with a walk-off field goal. However, they're not ready to play Central Michigan. They're not. CMU's just a better football team. They're going to put up points on the squad. And CMU plays good defense. Oh, they're 2-2. They lost to Pittsburgh and Michigan. What do you expect? Those games against Michigan and Pittsburgh, they couldn't move the ball offensively. They couldn't throw the football, and that is still a challenge for them. I will say that, right? Offense and points have been at a premium through the first 3 weeks of the season. I believe the Wagner game, though, and I know it's an FCS school, but that game against the Wagner Seahawks, I think they're the Seahawks. Yeah, they are. That did a lot for them. Because, guys, through the air, the Chippewas have not done anything prior to that one game. You look at what Joe Labus did in weeks 1 through 3, or just the passing game as a whole, you're held to under 60 yards in the San Jose State game, you're held to under 90 in the Pitt game, and you're held to under 40 in the Michigan game. And sure, you beat San Jose State primarily because SJSU's kicker can't make a field goal, but you find a way to walk into the Bay Area and you win. Shout out to you. That's a great victory for Central Michigan, right? Impressive. Pittsburgh loss is big, Michigan loss is big, but that's an ACC school and that's a top 25 Big Ten school in a stadium where 100,000 people are watching you play football. That doesn't concern me. I feel like the Chippewas figured it out last week, scoring 49 points against an FCS school, sure, and a bad FCS school at that in Wagner, who had 20 passing yards of their own right. But Joe Labus goes in there, 12 for 14 passing, 241 yards. They open up everything in that game. You got to like that if you're picking Central Michigan this week. And look at East Michigan, a team that does struggle to score in their own right, against a good defense in the Chippewas, at least a good defense for the Mountain West. I'm cool with this. I really am. I think Central Michigan wins the football game. Are these two lower-level teams, in my opinion, in the Mid-American? They are. They are. I'm not expecting much out of either of these squads. Like we see, I don't know. Central Michigan goes to Akron next week. They probably win that game. So there's a good chance we see the Chippewas start the year 2-0 in the MAC. That's neither here or there, though, right? I'm going with the Chippewas to win the football game, but I'm taking them to cover. Would I bet it? Probably not, right? There's better games to bet on, and do I have the utmost confidence that the Chippewas cover 5.5? Not entirely, but I think they win it. Noah Kim's slinging it a little bit, but East Michigan, to me, has too many games where they just look awful. Hell, they lost to LIU Brooklyn, right? They lost to Long Island by 5 points at home. Yeah, they put up kind of a fight against Kentucky, and that's going to be the weird stylistic challenge, I guess, in the same stylistic matchup in this game is, okay, East Michigan can score, but they're playing good defense. What happens? Something's got to give. At the same time, though, East Michigan's defense isn't good. And we've seen the Chippewas now break through in their FCS game against Wagner. I think that breakthrough continues this week against East Michigan. I'm taking the Chippewas to win at home, and I am taking them to cover the 5.5 points. Next up, we go on to the other game, played in the 10 o'clock hour, actually at 10:30. We go to Harrisonburg, Virginia, for the James Madison Dukes and the Georgia Southern Eagles. JMU's a 16 or 15.5 point favorite in this game. I understand it. They're 2-1 this year. They are loaded with talent, and sure, Kurt Cignetti left them 2 seasons ago, but JMU's still been pretty decent, and it all starts with their starting quarterback in Alonzo Barnett. A quarterback who, if he wants to play a senior season at a Power 4 school, at an ACC school, a potential Big Ten school, it's going to be there for Alonzo Barnett. That's how special. I don't want to say he's too special, but that's how talented I believe Alonzo Barnett is. And some of what I'm saying does come off of 2024 and the tremendous season he had with 2,600 yards and 26 touchdowns and 4 picks. Alonzo Barnett hasn't posted those incredible numbers so far here in 2025, but he's been good, and he's got his team at 2-1. Alonzo Barnett, he's a good talent. I will say that. And he's a guy, if you need him to run to, he can. And JMU is loaded with talent. They've got guys, lead backs Wayne Knight, but you also got George Pettaway as well. You've got a decent receiving core, and you're taking on Georgia Southern, a Georgia Southern team that's been building momentum. So obviously, the odds makers think a lot of JMU. They think highly of JMU, and I believe a lot in JMU as well because this is a big line for this game. It's a huge line for a first game in conference play for both squads, 15.5, and for a Georgia Southern team that scored 40-plus points in back-to-back games. But you know what JMU can do when they get going offensively. We saw it last year. You remember when they go to North Carolina and they score 70 points on the Tar Heels. Who was the starting quarterback that year? Oh, yeah, it was Alonzo Barnett, right? That's what JMU can do to you. I'm not telling you the game's going to be a 70-50 final and we're going to cover the 15.5 points because JMU's scoring 70, all right? I'm not telling you that's how we're going to win this week. But don't be scared if, Georgia Southern scores 4 touchdowns and here comes James Madison. They're scoring 7 touchdowns. It's just what they do, right? The Dukes know how to move the ball downfield. They know how to score. And they have a very good quarterback for the conference. They have one of the better quarterbacks in the Sun Belt who is back after a monstrous 2024 as well. For Georgia Southern, right, they score. And they've been scoring quite a bit, right? Recently, right, J.C. French has played good football, right? They were really in the game against Fresno State in week 1 at Valley Health Children's Hospital Stadium. They're winning at halftime 14-13. They get 29 consecutive points put on their head in the second half. They lose in week 2 to USC, but that's USC. They return home to the South, and they win back-to-back football games. A competitive game against Jack State where they win it by 7, and then a blowout against the Maine Black Bears last week. But it's just different, man. You take on those 2 schools in Georgia, cool. I think Jack State's a good victory. Maine's obviously an FCS program. You go from that now to James Madison, a team that's going to be relentless in their pursuit of scoring. They are going to move the ball down the field. They are going to work it the entire game, and they are going to challenge you to keep up. Last time Georgia Southern got into a shootout, they did stay in it against Jack State, and they ultimately won the football game. But I will be honest, that game against Jacksonville State, they were losing at one point in the third quarter, but it's hard for Jack State to stay in a shootout. And I like Gavin Wimsatt, but with Wimsatt's inability to consistently move the ball downfield, at least with his arm, it's not the end of the world if you're in a shootout with the Gamecocks. If you're in a shootout with James Madison, now you're in trouble. Because JMU's only got to win by 2 touchdowns. I believe they do that. I do think that highly of James Madison. They are a very good team in the Sun Belt. If I had to pick a winner right now of the Sun Belt after how Southern Miss played last week, I am undoubtedly taking the James Madison Dukes, and that's exactly where I'm going here. Give me JMU to win at home, and they will cover the 15.5 points. Oh, we need 3 touchdowns. That's fine. That's still fine. That's a crazy line, man. I'm still taking them. I don't know why I thought it was 13, even though I said 15 earlier. I'm still going with them. But yeah, that is kind of a nuts line. I'm not going to lie. I'm still taking JMU, though. I mean, this should tell you, though, how much better they are in the Sun Belt than everybody else. If they're getting this many points or they have to cover this many points at home against this Georgia Southern squad. Give me JMU. Next up, we go on to the only game starting at noon exactly from Monroe, Louisiana. It's the game you've all been waiting for. Sun Belt, Fun Belt. UL Monroe versus Arkansas State. Who needs Ohio State, Washington? Who needs LSU, Ole Miss? Who needs Auburn A&M? Who needs IU, Iowa? Nah. We've got UL Monroe and Arkansas State. Come on now. This is the game we're waiting for down here in the South. UL Monroe's coming off a huge victory last week against UTEP. They beat Malachi Nelson and the guys by 6 points. What are we going to need to do at Malachi Nelson? He throws for 400 yards in that game. They still lose. Throws some picks, but truth be told, not a horrible game from Malachi Nelson. They were losing, and that's why he had all those yards. But, he was part of the reason they fell behind early. But, at least he can still sling it. I don't know. No, UTEP's the right spot for him. He should stay at UTEP. I think you give him another year at UTEP starting, he might be decent and eventually could transfer to, a Boston College for his junior year. Actually, that would be a senior year, wouldn't it? Because he's a, oh my goodness, that would be a senior year. Whatever. He's got to stay at UTEP next year. He's just not ready for the next level yet. UL Monroe beats UTEP by 6 points. Aiden Armenta, starter, obviously. I mean, starting quarterback. UL Monroe is not going to move the ball down your field, and they're not going to throw it over your head. At least they're not going to move the ball consistently through the air. What they are is a run-heavy team. Armenta, he can throw, but it's more of a run game-based attack with Braylon McReynolds, who runs the ball 18 times in El Paso, runs it 18 times for 107 yards. I was more impressed by the UL Monroe run D. I mean, I know, again, UTEP had to abandon that run really early, but UTEP runs the ball for maybe 35 yards all game against UL Monroe, and most of that game is just UTEP trying to chase up. Or, get back in the game and chase UL Monroe, try to catch up. Because for as good as Malachi Nelson's stats look, they're down 31-10 in the fourth quarter. And he does put them in a position, right, where they, kick a field goal in the fourth quarter. They score 2 touchdowns. They're kind of in it. They're down 6 points, but they, never get the football back. Or they never get in a position to win the football game. Actually, they did get the ball back, and then he threw a pick, but that's neither here or there. UL Monroe's defense is good, and that's why I like them to beat Arkansas State. I'm so disappointed in Arkansas State, man. I mean, words cannot describe how disappointing this team has been. I go into the year thinking, okay, Jalen Raynor, here we go, right? Raynor's back. I don't know if he was really good last year, but he had a good year, I thought, for Arkansas State last season. I was excited to see what the Red Wolves were going to be able to do. I know they lost their first 2 games, or their first two losses were against Arkansas and then Michigan, or Iowa State. Okay, they play Iowa State really close. How you go from only losing to Iowa State by 8 points and then losing to Kennesaw State's beyond me. Maybe the Owls actually aren't that bad, and maybe I hate too much on the plank. Do they still do the plank there at Kennesaw? I don't know. The turnover plank. Maybe I'm hating on the Owls too much. I don't know. But how do you lose to Kennesaw by the same amount of points that you did to Iowa State? Like, I expected a lot more out of the Arkansas State Red Wolves, is what I'm saying. I expected a bunch more out of them. Jalen Raynor, for as good as he looked in 2024 at points, he hasn't been great so far in 2025, and that's not all the fault. Not all the fault is his. There's not a run game really, and it's all okay. Jalen Raynor's got to force it in passing, and I don't know. You lose to Kennesaw last week on the road. Fair play. I think UL Monroe is going to beat them this week. UL Monroe's defense is solid. I think they're able to hold Arkansas State in a lot of spots. I get a little concerned sometimes when I pick UL Monroe, which I haven't all year, and I am now. I get concerned about them and how they move the ball because, and this is what I mentioned last week before the UTEP game, they had 28 passing yards against Bama, 95 against St. Francis, PA. But they get to play their Big Ten counterparts in Northwestern in 2 weeks. That'll be fun. I gotta go with them to beat Arkansas State. I expect a defensive battle. I know UL Monroe can stop the run. We just saw it last week. We just saw it against UTEP. It's just all a matter of if they can stop Jalen Raynor. And I think they can. I mean, they limit Malachi Nelson for the first 3 quarters of that game. And okay, yeah, he gets it going in the fourth, and eventually they pick off Nelson to win the game. But I got to go with Monroe with this run-heavy attack. Would I bet it? No. And I know I'm saying would I bet it? No a lot. Trust me, when I don't say I wouldn't bet it, it's playable. But the games where I specifically say I don't want to bet it, there's a reason for that. I'm going UL Monroe to win the game and cover 3.5 points. Not my favorite spot, though. Not at all. Next up, we go to Ohio State and Washington. And here we go. Now kicks off the huge games this week. There's some big games later in the video, and we've got a back-to-back at 4:30. On this video, obviously, in the order. That's crazy with Oregon and Penn State, and then going right after that to Georgia and Alabama. But we have a stretch right now of games at 12:30 that are just insane. I mean, I can't wait for UConn and Buffalo, right? But I digress. Ohio State, Washington, we'll get to the other games in a second. They're huge. This is the first of a lot of big ones. On CBS, the Ohio State Buckeyes go on the road to take on the Washington Huskies. Ohio State's the number 1 team in the country, and they will get tested this week. They got tested in week 1, a low-scoring affair where they obviously host Texas at the Shoe, and Ohio State wins the football game. I was critical, and I was concerned about how Julian Sayin was going to play as the starting quarterback of the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's passed that test in the games since the Texas game. All right, in the Texas game, it was a matter of who was going to blink first. Not because it was a shootout, but it was because who's going to make that crucial and critical error before the other guy makes it. between Julian Sayin and Arch Manning. Well, Julian Sayin made the plays when they needed him to, and Arch Manning couldn't. But Arch Manning is taunting players from Group of 5 schools now. So, what happened to Arch Manning, man? I mean, I don't know. You know, he had a good game last week, but like, just his whole demeanor. Why are we taunting guys on Sam Houston State? They're not even a good G5. They're winless this year, or anyways, like you wouldn't see Eli doing that, would you? I don't know why I said Eli, not Peyton, but Ohio State goes on the road to play Washington. I know Washington scored 59 points on Wazoo. That game's so much closer than the final score indicates, though. If you watch that game and we had Wazoo spread, Wazoo was right in it. And then they proceed in back-to-back drives to throw a pick six on a 4th and 4, where if they punted, they could have pinned back Washington. Time could have gone off the clock. We probably would have covered. And then, okay, the pick six happens, and then Wazoo then proceeds to fumble on the first play of the next drive, and it all came crashing down. But in the fourth quarter, that game was 38-24. Like, 5 minutes into the fourth. And I'm thinking, okay, we're fine. We have plus 21.5. Probably okay here, and yet, nope. The final score is 59-24. Washington scores 28 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Way to go, Wazoo. You're awesome. Washington, though, they are a good team. Damon Williams is great. I think, you know, and I get it, Wazoo's defense isn't good, but what won Washington the game for me was their ability to convert on third downs. There are so many spots in that game where they're going backwards on first down. Damon Williams gets sacked on first down. Okay, we pick up, all right, 5 yards here, so we're stuck at a 3rd and, let's say, 12. It's 3rd and 13. And, okay, here, Damon Williams finds Denzel Boston. He finds Jonah Coleman, right? Or he doesn't really find, Jonah Coleman sneaks out the backfield, and they get it to him, right? That's what they did all game long. That was the story of that game, right? And Washington is a reason they scored 59 points. Sure, they were only at 35 going into the fourth quarter, but still, 35 points in 3 quarters. Most teams in the country will take that. And that's what Washington did. Every single time it looked like Wazoo was going to get back into it, and okay, they're one stop away from really getting back into it, boom, big play Washington. Got to give Damon Williams a lot of credit. Jonah Coleman is a premier running back in the sport. I think we need to pump the brakes on the Heisman talk, especially after last week. But yeah, Jonah Coleman is one of the better backs in football. And it does help when you're playing a Wazoo team that doesn't know how to run the football. But I'm not going to talk about that. It's difficult for Washington, though, at home. It is. I mean, you're taking on Ohio State. You're taking on probably the best defense in football. Probably. I mean, I know, again, holding Texas to 7 points is not as incredible as at least we thought it was in week number 1. Arch Manning, don't forget, was the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy in 2025. That is obviously not going to happen. Shout out to the Hoosiers and Fernando Mendoza. Heisman, they're calling him. But I like what they're doing offensively now in Columbus. I know they played Grambling State. I know they played the Ohio Bobcats, and they struggled with Ohio through the first 2.5 quarters, but it seems like Julian Sayin is finally figuring it out. And it sure helps when you have the best receiver in college football on your team, maybe the best all-around player in college football on your team, obviously, in Jeremiah Smith. Sure helps, doesn't it? I think Washington's going to have trouble, especially with now this even better Ohio State offense. And as an Indiana guy, I'm kind of happy we don't have to see Ohio State this year, you know? I'll take my chances with Penn State and Oregon. I'll get to that later. I'm cool off of Ohio State this season. If we see him in the Big Ten title game, we see him there. But they're going to lose to Michigan because they always do. Anyways, I'm going Ohio State to beat up on Washington this week. The story's been cool. Damon Williams is playing good football. But who are you playing good football against is the question. Damon can look great, but it's Colorado State, it's UC Davis, and it's Wazoo. And sure, you know, the reason why UW fans were so high going into the season or were so up on this team was how Damon played against Oregon and how he played in the Sun Bowl against Louisville. You're playing against Louisville's, you know, the last scraps left on Louisville last season, and they still lost by 30 points to Oregon in the last week of last year. This is the first legit test he gets. And there's no ease into it game in the Big Ten. And I get it. You know, you've had 3 ease into them games against Wazoo and whatnot. But you much rather this was, I don't know, Rutgers coming into town or Purdue coming into town. Your first Big Ten game of the year for Damon Williams is Ohio State, the Ohio State. That just sounds like trouble. Give me Ohio State to win and give me Ohio State to cover, -8.5. Next up, we go to a massive game this Saturday in Oxford as the Ole Miss Rebels host the Louisiana State Tigers. This is good. Lane Kiffin takes his guys or gets his guys going here against Louisiana State. They are a favorite to beat the number 4 team in the country, which I find kind of crazy. But here we are. Ole Miss this season, 4-0. They beat Georgia State. They go to Kentucky and they survive. 2 weeks ago, you have to start the backup, Trinidad Chambliss. Last second, he beats Arkansas. Last week, you rule out Austin Simmons. Chambliss comes in and beats up on Tulane. And now do we have a quarterback problem and a quarterback controversy here at Oxford? Because Austin Simmons was your guy. He was a guy that you thought you were going to have at the beginning of the season. He was next up. He's your new Jackson Dart. He's your, he's your young gun. And here we are. Didn't look great to start the season. Chambliss has been amazing. This is a guy who played Division II football at Ferris State. He was pretty good at the D2 level. There's a reason he's now here for his senior year at Ole Miss. And if I'm Ole Miss, I'm starting Chambliss. He, to me, runs the ball better than Austin Simmons. He takes care of the football better than Austin Simmons. And sure, he's not your big NIL guy. He's not your big, star product. He doesn't have a million stars on him. I'm going with Chambliss if I'm Ole Miss. Why wouldn't you? You're 2-0. And yeah, you haven't left Oxford yet, but you still don't leave Oxford for this game. Because again, in walks Louisiana State. This is a good team. Garrett Nussmer and LSU are dominant. They are. Are they though? They were dominant last week against Southeastern Louisiana. Now, weeks 1 through 3, they do enough to win all of them. Week 1, it was a shock. Not to me, because we had Louisiana State, and if you watched the video, I told you to take Louisiana State, right? That was not a shock to me. But you go to Clemson, you win week 1. You win by 7 points. Awesome. You then beat La Tech and barely get by La Tech. You beat the Bulldogs by 16 points, and I get it, I guess. La Tech's not bad this season, which is just so weird to me, considering how horrible they were in the CUSA last season. And then 2 weeks ago, you beat up on Florida, but you only beat them by 10 points, even though it feels like you're up by way more than 10. Hell, in the post-game press conference, Brian Kelly gets asked about how'd you only win this game by 10 points? And obviously, Kelly's not too kind to the reporter who asked him that question, but it was a fair question. Can't convert on third down. You win the game by 10 points against Florida. Awesome, but DJ Lagway throws 5 picks. How does that guy have his own Chipotle meal? I don't know. Louisiana State last week comes back and they beat Southeastern Louisiana. What did we learn? Nothing. It's an FCS game. We didn't learn a damn thing. What they do get, though, off of that is confidence going into this game against Ole Miss. 1 week at a time, obviously, in the SEC. I mean, it's the it's the SEC and the Big Ten, the 2 best conferences in college football. And there's a difference between playing in the Big Ten and the SEC than there is in the ACC and the Big 12. I like the ACC. I like the Big 12. But playing in the SEC and playing in the Big Ten, you barely get off weeks. Sure, you're going to get your Purdue game. You're going to get your UCLA game in the Big Ten. In the SEC, is there ever a break? I mean, I think the teams at the top of the Big Ten are better than the teams at the top of the SEC. I definitely think that. The teams at the bottom of the SEC, they'll run through the teams at the bottom of the Big Ten. I think the teams in the middle of both, I would go Big Ten, which makes to me the Big Ten the all-around better conference. But the teams at the bottom of the SEC, like South Carolina and Florida, run right through UCLA. I don't know how I got those two mixed up. UCLA and I wouldn't put Purdue there anymore. It's probably Northwestern. It's probably the second worst team in the Big Ten. It's got to be Northwestern, right? Yeah. They've scored 14 points all year. Oh, Wisconsin's been pretty bad too, though. Yeah, I don't know. I'm joking about Northwestern scoring 14 points all year. They scored 14 against Oregon. But I got to go with Ole Miss here to lose. I got to take Louisiana State. I know I just took a long-winded answer to get to that. Here's why, okay? I think Chambliss is playing good football. LSU's got the better roster. They've got the better roster and they've got the better talent. We have not seen the Rebels play a game yet where they faced a really good defense. until now. So what happened last year? They were dominating everybody, and sure, kind of different last year. They ran into their first SEC game last year, and they lost to Kentucky at home. But that was the whole, hit on Jackson Dart last year was, okay, well, Ole Miss is good. He's got Trey Harris and whatnot, but Jackson Dart just can't play clutch football. And when they get into tough games, they don't come through. And last year, an overtime classic in Baton Rouge between Louisiana State and Ole Miss, that, of course, was won by the Tigers by 3 points. But my point being, Ole Miss still has not seen a good defense this season. They haven't seen a great defense just yet. You're going to see it right now. I mean, that's just what Louisiana State's going to do. Say what you want about their offense and how disappointing they have been since the Clemson game. That defense is going to try to shut you down. And what happens when Ole Miss is not in their shootout that they are accustomed to being in against Kentucky, against Arkansas, against Tulane? What happens when you take them out of that? Garrett Nussmer, for as mid as he has been this year, we know the talent's there. For as mid as his numbers are, he's a talent, he's got an arm, and he can launch it. Okay? And there's not many guys in college football that you'd rather have the ball in their hands late in the game than Garrett Nussmer. I'm going Louisiana State. Taking Louisiana State to win the game on the road. I know it's a tough environment. SEC game, road game. I don't care. I'm taking Louisiana State to win the game on the road. You can keep your 1.5 points. Plus 105 for Louisiana State. Ole Miss is overrated. They beat up on Tulane. Great for them. That's awesome. It's a really good win. They're a little overrated. Chambliss has been great. Time's up, pal. Give me Louisiana State. Actually, please start Austin Simmons. Please start him. That would be awesome. Next up, hits keep on coming. Now, this one's not as big of a hit, but here we are. Texas A&M. This game's on ESPN at 12:30. Texas A&M hosts the Auburn Tigers. What do I say about Auburn? An expected result, right, in Oklahoma. The run comes to an end, and this is kind of what we've been accustomed to at Jackson Arnold football. No disrespect to Jackson Arnold, but it's kind of what Jackson Arnold is, right? I mean, it's just hasn't thrown a pick this season, which is awesome. Good for him. But is not a game changer. Is not a guy that is going to take over a football game, and is not a guy that's going to pull you out of one. Just, I don't know. He's a good football player. I don't think he's a great football player. And was the pressure and, the ability for for Oklahoma to get to him, I mean, was that obviously a factor? Sure. And is that out of Arnold's hands sometimes? It is, I don't love this spot for them. I don't love it. They're going on the road to A&M. A&M's a team that's coming off the win over Notre Dame. You have all the momentum in the world. You beat UTSA. You beat Utah State. And sure, those two teams put up points on you. But here's the thing. Force Auburn to score against you. I mean, if Auburn wants to be competitive, okay. Go out here and score. Are they able to do that? Yeah, the Baylor win, it looks pretty good. Well, Baylor just lost, but that was a good win in Waco. You beat Ball State. You're supposed to beat Ball State. You put up only 31 points against South Alabama, win the game by 16 points. Really? And it's not like, the game just tightened up at the end. No, that game was always close against South Alabama, kinda. It was relatively close. It's the problem with Jackson Arnold. He's not a quarterback that's going to take over a game, and he's not a quarterback that's just going to be the single reason you win. I'm going with A&M here. I like what I saw in that game against Notre Dame. I mean, they take every single punch Notre Dame has. We know what Marcel Reed's made out of. We know Marcel Reed's a Heisman candidate. We know Marcel Reed's a top 10 quarterback in college football right now. I don't know what happens when Jackson Arnold's in a dogfight and we need a score. Can you rely on Jackson Arnold to score? No, you can't. Can't at all. He gets his revenge game last week. Those for 200 yards. Doesn't play a horrible game, but doesn't play a game that's well enough to win the game for the Auburn Tigers. And is John Mateer that guy? Oh, he is. But I like A&M and Marcel Reed. I mean, the way that they're able to beat Notre Dame on the road at South Bend, it's a must-win game for the Fighting Irish after losing to Miami the week before. The play Marcel Reed makes on 4th and 10, the entire drive to win the game against Notre Dame. I like A&M a lot in this spot. They are 6.5-point favorites. They only need to win by a touchdown. I'll take that out of the Texas A&M Aggies. Give me the Aggies at home to beat the Auburn Tigers, -6.5. They will do it at home at Kyle Field at College Station. Next up, we go to the Hoosiers. Here we go, man. Let's go. Indiana football. Oh, how are they 11th? I opened the video with it, and I'll say it again. How are there 10 teams in college football that are supposed to be better than this team? You're telling me that, okay, Ohio State will give it to you. Miami, I'll give it to you. Everyone else, no. Nope. Penn State? Nah, not better. LSU? Indiana beats LSU. Georgia? Hell no. Oregon? Give me Indiana. Oklahoma? That's a good team. Give me Indiana. FSU? Come on now, they can't keep up. Texas A&M? They're good. If Notre Dame's scoring that many points on you, how many points is Fernando Mendoza scoring on you? Texas? Are we serious? Indiana beats Texas by 14 plus points. If the game's in Bloomington, if it's in Texas, we'll see. Close game, Indiana sneaks out with a victory. How you can beat a top 10 team, and I don't care what the narrative is now on Illinois. Oh, they're not that good. Oh, they should never be ranked. They shouldn't be ranked. Why were they in the top 10? I don't know. They were ranked in the top 10 when Indiana beat them. You cannot just credit Indiana for beating a top 10 team when they were actually ranked in the top 10. You can't discredit that. Now, oh, they're not supposed to be good. Well, they were top 10 when Indiana beat them. You can't discredit the Hoosiers no more. A lot of the narrative around Indiana last year was, who have they beat? What's their signature victory? The biggest thing that they did last year was lose at Ohio State. Just because you go to UCLA and win, and you beat Michigan State on the road, you beat Michigan. What's your big win? Here's your big win in 2025. They did it in week 4. And you want another big win? Okay. Here's a win at Iowa coming right up. That's what's happening this week. They are going to dominate the Iowa Hawkeyes. And here's how. If Rutgers is scoring that many points against you, Indiana is going to put it on you. It's the simplest way I can put it. I know Iowa, and we've talked about this game earlier in the video when we were talking about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Iowa's defense locked in the second half. They completely locked in the second. They give up 7 points in the entire quarter. I know, again, right? Jay Patel misses the field goal and whatnot. It gets blocked. It's okay. I don't care if you're still giving up that many points. You're Iowa. You can't give up 28 points. That's your entire thing. That's your entire motto. Oh, we play great defense. We win low-scoring games. We win the gritty, tough battles. You know? That's what you do. Awesome. Well, you should probably not give up 28 points to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. That's just a thought. That's just a thought for me. You give up that many points to Rutgers, how many is Indiana going to put on you? A team that's going to score every single time they touch the football. And that's what they've done since week 1. Week 1, it was a little concerning against Old Dominion. What have they done since week 1? They have scored every single time. They score, and they score, and they score, and they score. 63 points against Illinois is incredible. Fernando Mendoza goes 21 for 23 passing in that game. 2 incompletions the entire game. You lose BB, it sucks. Here comes Kobe Martin. Here comes Kalen Black. Here comes Roman Hemby. The BB loss is horrible. You have 3 other running backs who are more than capable. And then the receiving core. Cooper, Surratt, EJ Williams. That tight end screen, beautiful. I mean, I don't think there's a better team in college football right now. I don't think so. Indiana should be ranked in the top 5. They should be. They're not going to get the credit they deserve. They're not going to get the respect they deserve. But they're going to get more respect this week when they go to Iowa and win. Iowa doesn't throw the football. Indiana is going to be completely locked into the fact of, okay, this team can only run the ball on us. And Mark Gronowski last week at Rutgers ran for 3 touchdowns. 13 carries on 55 yards. Kamari Moulton is a threat too in the run game. A lot went Iowa's way other than just working the ball downfield, right? Kalamakis throws a pick. Rutgers misses a field goal. Iowa returns the opening kickoff for a touchdown. A lot goes Iowa's way to win it by 10. Their offense still is not that good. So what I'm saying here is that their defense essentially got bailed out, in my opinion. That's what I'm saying. Their defense essentially got bailed out because normally when you're Iowa, and this is to be fair to Iowa's defense, you give up 28 points, you're still hoping your team's in a position to win, right? Still, though, that's the circumstances that you have been given. You're Iowa, you give up 28 points, you usually lose. Because how many times over, or how many times again, is Iowa going to score more than 28 points? Probably not that many. So I think this is a positive for Indiana. Yeah, Iowa's coming off a huge road victory. Ethan Kalamenka's threw for 330 yards. The cracks in the armor are right there on Iowa right now. Their offense is still not that good. If the defense isn't as good, what makes Iowa special? What makes Iowa Iowa? Indiana dominates. They win by more than 20 points. They walk in to Iowa City and they destroy the Hawkeyes. Roll Indiana. Let's move on to this crap. I mean, I get so pumped for Ohio State, Washington, LSU, Ole Miss. I can kind of get excited for a Jackson Arnold football game against A&M, Indiana, and then this crap. Oh, it's gonna get worse right after too, by the way. So lock in for 2 disappointing games. We have the UCLA Bruins taking on the Northwestern Wildcats. Yay! I'm so over the moon for this football game. Don't watch this. I'm so serious. I'll tell you right now, I won't be watching live. Okay, I will catch up on it later. I'm not going to be spending my 12:30 hour watching Northwestern and UCLA. It's not going to be on the split screens, right? It's not going to be on the 4 split screen setup plus the compute plus the laptop on the side. No, it won't be on anywhere. It won't be on the phone. It won't be on the other computer. No, this game will not be on. Okay, I will have Ohio State, Washington on. I'll have LSU, Ole Miss. I'll have Auburn, A&M. I'll have Indiana, Iowa. Some Big 12 games in a second we're going to talk about. This will not be on the TV. Okay? I think Northwestern's going to beat UCLA, and I think they're going to cover. 6.5 points. I think they will. You can't lose to New Mexico by 25 points on your own home turf and make me believe that you're going to stay competitive against Northwestern on the road. Is Northwestern horrible? Yes. Would Northwestern lose by 25 points in Illinois against New Mexico? No, they wouldn't. Not at all. Because at least Northwestern is going to shut you down defensively. So even if you are going to beat Northwestern, if you're like New Mexico, for say, you're going to beat them 13-10, not 35-10. Your offense sucks. Your defense sucks. You don't have your linebacking core is horrible. I'm sorry, it is. Your DBs aren't the best. Nico's below guys. Nico's a below average quarterback. No, not just in the Big Ten. In college football, Nico Amaliva is a below average quarterback. That's how the story goes. He's below average, unfortunately. Maybe that changes. Right now, he's a below average quarterback. Everything at UCLA is below average. You fire your head coach. Awesome. Great. I mean, does that change much? I don't know. You fired Deshaun Foster. Great. You're 0-3, and now you take on Northwestern. Northwestern's coming off a bye week as well, as they played Oregon 2 weeks ago, and they lost at home. Okay, that's expected. Preston Stone's the starting quarterback, obviously. Southern Methodist transfer. Am I expecting a lot of points out of Northwestern? I'm not, but I'm not expecting UCLA to score. I think UCLA scores max 10 points this week, because hell, they've scored 10 points in 1 week against Utah, 23 the next week at UNLV, and then 10 points last week against New Mexico. They're not scoring more than 10 points against a better defense in Northwestern. Northwestern, I don't think their defense is as good as Utah's, but UCLA is going to struggle to score this week. So I take Northwestern, a team that's not going to give up many points, and we just need them to score a little bit. They should be able to score a little bit. Because UCLA's defense is nothing special. Is Northwestern's offense anything special? Oh, hell no, it's not. Again, they have one receiver, his name's Griffin Wild, who does everything for them. He's a junior from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He's got 15 catches for 215 yards this season. He does everything for this football team. He's from South Dakota State, right? The cream of the crop, obviously, over there in the FCS. Awesome. He's been the go-to guy for Preston Stone this season. UCLA doesn't have anything like that. They don't have, it's Nico to so-and-so. I mean, I guess it's Gilmer. But there is no special connection at UCLA. There is nothing special brewing at UCLA right now. They just suck. That's what they are. They're not good. All right, they're an embarrassment. They're a joke, and they should be ashamed. You're the University of California, Los Angeles. You play in Los Angeles, Pasadena, but you should be ashamed of yourselves. How's Nico your leading rusher too? Yeah, this team's a joke. Northwestern -6.5. They win the game at home and they cover. Don't watch this live. Next up, we got this joke, man. Oh my goodness. Like, Cal goes on the road at Boston College. This is just horrible football. Two teams that have been disappointing. No other way to put it. Cal, you started the year 3-0. You have people legitimately believing, and myself included, there might be a pathway to Cal to get to the playoffs. That was the mindset last week. Because there is nobody on their schedule that's supposed to be that much better than Minnesota. Sure, Southern Methodist is a tough game. It is. And that's an offense that's going to score. But the way Cal had been playing early in the year, it's like, all right, I don't know if I don't know if you can get stops against this defense. I don't know. Or against this offense. This offense is great. And you look at their weak ACC schedule, no FSU, no Miami, hell, no Clemson, at least that was the things to start the year. No Syracuse. Okay, this is really manageable. No Georgia Tech. They don't play anybody good in the ACC. And yet you lose to San Diego State. It's not like, oh, you played a competitive game, you lost it at the end. They lost 34-0. I mean, what happened? I was at a loss for words. I'll be honest, I was not watching the game live initially. I did not have that one on. Right? It's the nightcap. Keeping an eye on Colorado, Wyoming. I'm really locked in, honestly, on USC, Michigan State, because that was one of our best bets. Trying to pay attention to UL Monroe and UTEP as well. Trying to the best of my ability. And then I'm just like, okay, I take it as a given California is going to beat up on San Diego State. It's only an hour and a half plane ride. Like, you should beat up on that team. Just to find out they're losing 34-0. Or they lose 34-0. What happened to Jaron Kiwe Sagapulete? I don't know. It's a disgusting game they played. You want to talk about disgusting? Let's talk about Boston College football. You lost to Stanford. I get it. The trip to Stanford's tough. All the way out in Palo Alto. I get that. It's far. I understand. And you had to play a night game. It's 10:30 your time. I sure. Okay. You still lose. You're up. Let's see if I get this right. You're up 20-6 at one point. About to go up 21 points, and you fumble in the red zone, and then it all comes downhill. Sam Roush has a 69-yard touchdown, and then Stanford eventually wins the game 30-20. Hell, Boston College can't score in the second half. I was there row one. I was in my VIP seats at Stanford, right? Yeah, my $6 VIP seats, totally. Anyways, yes, you can sit front row for $6 at Stanford football games. It's incredible, I guess. It's not, because it doesn't feel like a college football environment, okay? I go from Big Ten country back to this. Brutal. Anyways, Boston College, I mean, yeah, again, Turbo Richard does everything for them. I'm not impressed with Boston College. I'm not. But I'm even less impressed with Cal. Oh my goodness, man. 97-yard pick six. Way to go, dude. Fumble recovery for a touchdown. Their running back fumbles in the third quarter. I mean, just an absolute joke. California is. The woke agenda's over, all right? It's just, the woke agenda's already, the woke agenda's over at Cal, right? I mean, like, there goes their whole, obviously I'm talking about the internet thing. You just lost the woke agenda. It's done. The memes are over. It's not funny anymore after you lose by 34 points on the road to San Diego State. The same San Diego State that lost to Wazoo by 30 on the road. Give me BC. Give me Boston College. Turbo Richard will have over 100 yards. Lonergan, their quarterback, I still don't know how to say his name properly. He should have a good game. I'm taking BC -6.5, okay? Give me Boston College. Don't bet on this game. Okay, there's so many better things you could do. This is a better bet than Boston College. Oklahoma State's a joke. How did we just wind up? Why are all the bad teams playing in succession here? Like, they're all back-to-back, and then, we get a team that, ooh. Their next team's not that bad. It's just last week wasn't good. What, like, no, this is actually just, this is the trend of mediocrity. Because when we get a G5 team that crapped the bed last week, oh my goodness. They just really stuffed all these disappointments at 12:30. Okay. OK State versus Baylor. Oklahoma State football. What happened to you? What happened to Oklahoma State football? I get it. Alan Bowman robbed them blind. And, you know, Alan Bowman screwed him last year. Well, I think Alan Bowman would do a better job right now at quarterback than Zane Flores. And I get it. Alan Bowman's like 8 years older than Zane Flores. But, oh, man, this is brutal. I mean, I know your starter gets injured week 1. You got to go to Zane Flores. And Zane Flores was not supposed to be the starter this year. He was not supposed to take serious reps. And now here he is thrusted into every single game imaginable. But it's been it must be horrible being an Oklahoma State fan. You watch Oklahoma at John Mateer have national championship aspirations. John Mateer is going to probably be a Heisman finalist. And then, what do we got going on in Stillwater? This. Baylor's going to destroy them, man. Baylor's going to be playing angry, playing off a loss. I mean, they had that game against ASU at home, and they let Arizona State walk them off. Don't get me wrong, again, I talked about it earlier. They got screwed in that game. They get a bullcrap helmet-to-helmet contact play. Baylor gets royally screwed. They lose the football game. Puts ASU in field goal range. They kick a field goal. They obviously win it. And we didn't... Okay, Baylor... In all fairness, though, Baylor was horrible for 2.5 quarters in that game. No, really 3 quarters they were horrible. The offense couldn't move the ball. Sure, the defense was playing well, but in that Baylor offense, that really good Baylor offense we had seen all year long, it was non-existent in the first 3 quarters. They scored 1 touchdown, 10 points. Just like, what happened to the Sawyer Robertson that's thrown for 400+ yards? Well, that Sawyer Robertson came on in the second half. And sure, it was just too late. If they'd done this the entire game, obviously they would have won. But their entire game plan, not game plan, but the only thing that was working for Baylor until Robertson finally got it together was Bryson Washington, their starting running back. Bryson Washington was very good. But, yeah, you need Robertson to play a full 4 quarters. And he will do that against the worst team in the Big 12. That's Oklahoma State. You lost to Tulsa on your own home field. Tulsa. Not a bad team, but not a team Oklahoma State should be losing to. That's embarrassing. It's a joke. You should be ashamed of yourselves. It's the only way I can put it. They're 1-2. You lose to you beat UT Martin. I mean, wouldn't be surprised at this point if they lose to a team like that. But you beat UT Martin. You go to Eugene. Obviously, you lose to Oregon. There's no shame in that. But the way you lose it isn't fun. You lose by 66 points to the Ducks. And then you lose to Tulsa. What a joke. What a joke. Baylor's a minus 1250 favorite this week. Are you kidding me? See, now that's crazy. They're a minus 1250 favorite. I mean, they're going to cover. I mean, they're going to win, obviously. They will cover, too. Oklahoma State can't score. It's a problem with their offense, right? And I have nothing against Zane Flores. He looks like a great guy. Young quarterback, obviously, still trying to find his ways in the Big 12. But he looks lost in the pocket. Pressure gets to him really easily, and it's hard to disrupt. It's easy to disrupt what he's doing in the pocket. They have no offense. They can't move the ball downfield. Yeah, they lose by 7 points to Tulsa last week. No, they scored 2 garbage time scores, essentially. They're losing 19-3 going into the 4th quarter. Yeah, Oklahoma State's a joke, guys. There's no other way to put that. I'm taking Baylor to walk in there and just blow them out. The game will not be close. 19.5 points favored are Baylor. Yeah, I'm going to take the Baylor Bears. Baylor Bears minus 19.5. This is just the endless loop right now of we've been talking about recently, post-Indiana game, of disappointing and bad football teams. Okay? That's what Oklahoma State is right now. A bad football team. They might not win a game in the Big 12. They might not. Give me Baylor to blow them out. Next up, we're back on disappointment road. Yep. And it pains me to say this because of how good Utah was early in the season and how highly I thought of the Utah Utes. This one hurts. This one hurts me to say that Utah is part of the disappointment club this week, but they are. Not gonna hide from that. This is a team that I thought was gonna win the Big 12. What happens when they finally get into Big 12 play? I'm really excited for them this season. Oh, they lose. They lose. They lose to Texas Tech at home. You get big noon kickoff. You have all that hype around you, and you can't come out with the victory. And you scored 10 points. Now, the final score is 34-10. The game's a lot closer than that, right? Tech scores a bunch late in the game. Will Hammond obviously comes in, the backup quarterback who played some last year with Brendan Morton's injuries. But he really sparks up the offense, and they get it going. Utah at a point, though, in the fourth quarter, they were down 13-3. Wayshawn Parker ran in for a touchdown. They're down 3 points. Texas Tech immediately responds and scores a touchdown. Utah gets the ball back. Devin Dampier has a guy wide open, probably for a touchdown. He just misses him. It's the worst game by far Devin Dampier has ever played in his career. Don't entirely know what the dude did in high school, but I can almost guarantee you it's by far the worst game he's played in his life. It was horrible. 2 picks, what Dampier does, and Texas Tech scouted it well. They played it well, but where Dampier can hurt you is with his legs, getting out the pocket, scrambling, and nope, Texas Tech stopped everything. There was no scrambling ability from Dampier. There was no creating crazy plays. And I did get a little concerned about Utah 2 weeks ago when they went into Laramie, Wyoming, and struggled so early in the game, but second half Utah came through and they scored. There's only so long your defense can hold on and only give up 10 points. Only give up 13 points like it was on Saturday. I mean, eventually you're going to have to score for your team, and for Utah, they couldn't do that. It sucked. The defense is still good. Don't take those late game scores by Will Hammond too seriously. Yeah, good for Tech. They keep on scoring in that game, but Utah's still got a very good team. It's just they need to get going offensively. This is a great game to bounce back with, though. It is. I mean, West Virginia, no disrespect. I don't think West Virginia is good at all. WVU is 2-2. You beat Pitt in the backyard brawl again. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I'm going to throw out everything in rivalry games sometimes, at least when we compare it to other games in the year, right? I mean, for that one game alone, take it how you can. Great victory. Take it how it is what I'm going for. It's a great victory for WVU. What happens the week after? What happens last week? You get blown out at Kansas by 31 points. It's a good football team, but that should show you really where, Kansas is at. Not Kansas, where West Virginia is at. I think Utah's going to dominate. I think they are. And I know I say that a lot, and I thought they were going to dominate last week. It is what it is. They still have a really good defense. How is WVU going to score on this team? I don't know. Texas Tech last week came into that game against Utah as the highest scoring offense in college football. They had scored it was Arkansas Pine Bluff. They had scored 67 against Pine Bluff, 62 against Kent, 45 against Oregon State. And then, they ended up scoring 34 against Utah. But those points didn't come until the very end of the football game. And until, 8 minutes to go in the football game. Utah will hold West Virginia. There's not much that the Mountaineers offer up offensively, as they put 10 points up against Kansas, 10 points against Ohio. Utah should dominate that game on that side of the ball. And at the same time, Devin Dampier in the offense should get going. I don't think they remain stagnant for that long and remain that bad for that long. Dampier should get going with his feet. He should get going with his arm. And I'm taking the Utah Utes to win and cover on the road. Would I bet it? Probably not, just because we got to see what Utah does in adjustment from a loss. I'm going to take Utah minus 11.5. Would I bet it right out? Would I bet it? Probably not, especially with the great games we have at 12:30. I'd rather put that money on Louisiana State. Utah on the road, again, kind of a difficult spot. They should win. They will win, but not my favorite. Give me Utah. Next up, back on Disappointment Road. We're still on Disappointment Road. We never ventured off. Oh, the Buffalo Bulls. Oh my goodness. I mean, I expressed my disappointment earlier, and I will express my disappointment once more. How did you lose last week to Troy? It's not just, they lost, right? That's one thing. You lose the game, it's a competitive game, okay. It's how they lost. They were winning 21-0. So they were winning 17-0, excuse me. And Troy then puts up 21 consecutive points. They score with 45 seconds to go, and they win the game. They can still win the MAC. Oh, they can. They can still win the MAC, and they can still, fulfill the prophecy I kind of set out at the beginning of the season for them. That's awesome. You couldn't move the ball at all. I mean, this is the thing, man. And this is a play calling issue in my opinion. It is. But and sure, when Roberson comes out of the game and it's Gunnar Gray now, and obviously Gunnar Gray is not the starting quarterback. He is a senior out of San Diego, but I don't even know where he's played before. He was at Buffalo last year. He has not started a Division I football game ever. So you get a backup quarterback in, but obviously Buffalo does not feel confident enough throwing the football. You're up 17-0, right? This is how this game goes. You're up 17-0 against Troy. You kick that field goal. They respond with a touchdown. Okay, great. You get the ball back. You go 3 and out. You run the ball 3 times. Don't get anything. You punt the ball back to Troy. They go 3 and out. You get the ball back. You go 3 and out again. Punt them the ball back. Touchdown drive. Ball game. I skipped a touchdown and all that, but you know what I mean. It was nothing but 3 and outs. 4 straight 3 and outs for Buffalo to end the football game. And they lose it with 40 seconds left in the clock. That's disappointing. It's more than disappointing. Al-Jay Henderson, he tried. This is a guy, again, who was an elite back in college, or at least in the MAC last season. I don't know what the status of Taquan Roberson is. I hope Roberson's playing. That's kind of where I'm going with this pick. And here's what I will say about this, okay? I'm taking Buffalo, but I'm going to wait to see if Roberson plays. Because if Roberson plays, this is the ultimate revenge game. He played at UConn just 2 seasons ago. He left UConn to go play at Kansas State, where I don't know why he thought he could either beat out Avery Johnson or be the starter or just back up Avery Johnson. But this is a guy who started at UConn in 2023 when Joe Fagano got injured. I don't know why he could have started. Whatever, it's fine. He should have just gone to Buffalo right away or another MAC team. It's okay. Doesn't play at all really at K-State last year, and now comes to Buffalo. This is a revenge game. I know Fagano is still at UConn, so there's really no jumping him. I believe Taquan Roberson's going to do everything in his power to possibly play this game against his former team. UConn has not been that good this year. They give up points, and that should benefit Buffalo because Buffalo's going to score, and Buffalo's more than willing to get into that shootout. UConn played back-to-back overtime games against Syracuse and Delaware on the road. They lost, but they give up 44 points to the Delaware Blue Hens. That's a good team. Guys, Delaware's balling right now. Last week they beat Ball State, but you beat Ball State by 6 points. And that is as bad as the MAC gets. No, actually, that's Akron. But it's Kent State. Oh, man. That's not a good Ball State team that you take to the wire at home in Connecticut and you beat by 6 points. If you only scored 31 points against Buffalo, especially if Taquan Roberson plays, you're not winning. You're not winning. So we'll see what happens. If Roberson plays, we're in business. If not, it gets a little scary. I know they played Kent very competitive a couple weeks ago, but that's on the road. UConn at home this time. And again, I'm telling you, the revenge game for Roberson means a lot. He is a 25-year-old, 50-year quarterback, but that doesn't matter. I'm taking the Buffalo Bulls to win the football game, and I'm taking them to cover 2.5. They're dogs. Again, I think that's really just the uncertainty of who the starting quarterback is going to be, if Roberson's healthy or if it's going to have to be Gunnar Gray. If it's Gunnar Gray, though, I'm concerned. Okay? I'm concerned. So that's why I'll wait to make my bet for this game. I'm not going to put it in until I know Taquan Roberson is the starting quarterback. Nonetheless, for now, give me Buffalo plus 115 and plus 3.5. Next up, we go to some Mountain West versus MAC action as we have got San Diego State going on the road to take on Northern Illinois. So we have talked, obviously, about San Diego State quite a bit in this video because of how bad the California Golden Bears are. San Diego State just beats Cal 34-0, and do I need to be all that impressed with San Diego State, or do I just need to be not impressed and disgusted by Cal? I'm going to go with the latter. San Diego State didn't play bad. Jaden Denegal played all right, but okay, The reason San Diego State won that football game was not because of their offense, it was because of the mistakes that Cal made. And sure, I'll give credit to where credit is due. San Diego State took advantage of those mistakes, took advantage of those errors, and won the football game that way. But you're a 2-1 team. You won week 1 against an FCS school that's blanking my mind right now, Stony Brook. And then you get blown out at Pullman in week number 2 against Wazoo. And we've seen how the season's gone for Wazoo since. Lost by 40-plus points in back-to-back games. So where can I put San Diego State? I don't know. They're going to Northern Illinois. They're taking on an NIU team that beat Holy Cross by 2 points. No, not the Matt Sluco Holy Cross days. Our team's a Holy Cross team that's not that great anymore. I don't follow FCS football that much. I follow enough sports. But yeah, the Crusaders are 0-4 this season. That's what I thought. They're not playing well. NIU's offense is extremely mid. Since beating Holy Cross, you lose at Maryland, you lose at Mississippi State. No shame in either of those losses, but my point remains, you're just kind of mid. You don't really move the ball offensively, and your defense is all right. You held Maryland to 20, but it's not something that's going to just straight up win you football games. Josh Holst has been the definition of mid this season. I know, he's been below average. 330 yards passing, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Yeah, that's in 3 football games. San Diego State, 2-1 this season. Again, we went over that with the victories over Stony Brook in California. And now these two teams meet up in DeKalb, I believe this is where, DeKalb, Illinois. San Diego State's a 3.5-point favorite, 3-point favorite. Would I bet it? Probably not. Probably not. San Diego State should win, though. No, actually... Nah, I don't care. I would bet this, actually. Northern Illinois doesn't move the football at all offensively. Look how San Diego State plays last week against Cal, and maybe that's fool's gold. Maybe, it's at Snapdragon, it's in San Diego, California just sucks, and San Diego State plays better at home. Because, again, in the limited sample size we have for them on the road this season, they went to Wazoo and they lost. So maybe that is a factor. However, I have to believe they beat Northern Illinois. And no, this is not on the no-bet list this week. I don't know if it's going to make the best bet list. I'll need another 4 days to ponder that. But for now, yes, we are taking San Diego State to beat Northern Illinois. You can't win if you can't score. And you can't win if you can't move the football. Truth be told, truthfully, money line here is not horrible at minus 140. That's not horrible odds. You like a money line to be in the minus 130s or whatnot, but, we can play minus 140 and not really bat an eye to it. I'll take those odds. San Diego State takes advantage of the field positioning their defense puts them in, and the turnovers their defense forces. Hell, last week, the offense doesn't even do much. Obviously, you have the fumble recovery for a touchdown. You have the interception for a touchdown, obviously. The pick 6 in the second half. And the offense does their thing to scrape across 13 points in the first half. But again, this is just a team that finds ways to win. Or not even that, because they're 2-1, but they play good positional football. Situational is the better word for that. They play good situational football. And I expect them to play good situational football this week against Northern Illinois, a mediocre team. Yes, they've played 2 Power 4 teams in back-to-back weeks on the road, in Maryland, in Mississippi, against Mississippi State, where they just lost 38-10. But there's been no signs of life for this offense, even in their game against Holy Cross. They've got 190 total yards of offense, and they win the game by 2 points over the now 0-4 FCS Crusaders. Give me San Diego State to go on the road. I think the Aztecs take advantage of that. Again, I'm a little scared because they have to go all the way to Illinois, but I'm going to take the Aztecs to win the game on the road and cover the 3 points. Next up, we go to Toledo versus Akron. Another matchup here in the Mid-American Conference. I get it, San Diego State's not part of the MAC, but more MAC squads, as we had Buffalo, then NIU, and now 2 MAC teams. From the Glass Bowl, Toledo versus Akron. This game should show you the difference between a good MAC team and a horrible MAC team. Here's the thing, though, about the Mid-American Conference, and this is why, for the most part, unless I get a really good read on a MAC game, like, Buffalo, Kent State last year, I stay away from betting MAC games. And here's why. Every team in the MAC can beat every team in the MAC. And every team in the MAC can lose to every team in the MAC. This is how funky the conference is. Just wait until we get Wednesday games and, anything can happen on a weekday, right? Anything can happen on a Tuesday in the MAC, where there's 50 people in the crowd and, these guys have class at 9 o'clock the next morning because, you don't really get the benefit of not going to class in the MAC, right? You got to grind at those schools. So this is my problem with this game. Will Toledo win and bitch and cover Akron? Yeah, they will. They will beat up on the Akron Zips. Akron's horrible. Don't let that 51-point performance against Duquesne fool you, okay? Ben Finley doesn't even play all that well. He just does enough. And, Jordan Gant's the one really carrying the load. Their running back has 160 yards in the game. The reason, the reason Akron wins, obviously, is because of their ground game against Duquesne. This team is still not good. Did they turn a page in the UAB game? They did not, okay? They scored a lot in the first half, and in the second half, Akron reverted back into Akron. They scored 8 points in the second half, and that came 1 in the fourth quarter, a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and a 2-point conversion. They scored 17 points in the first quarter, and they scored 11 points for the rest of the game. I want to believe in Ben Finley, who's a former California Golden Bear, who transferred out to Akron to fight for the starting job after DJ Irons left to play football in, Germany? We saw that the other week. It's just Ben Finley doesn't pass the test at all, if anything. Obviously, brother of Ryan Finley, former Cincinnati Bengals quarterback and North Carolina State quarterback. I got to go with Toledo here. Toledo, they lost to West Michigan, which makes no sense to me. The West Michigan Broncos, who don't throw the ball well at all with Brock Lowry. West Michigan's so bad. How do they lose to that team? God, man. Are you serious? How does Tucker Gleason go 15 for 30 for 2 picks and 89 yards? I guess the West Michigan defense, and that's the takeaway I'll get from that game, other than the takeaways that, Tucker Gleason obviously was given up, is that West Michigan's defense actually is legit. Because I had questions about it when Michigan State just didn't come through in that game at East Lansing. They won the game by 17 points, but West Michigan stayed in it. They forced turnovers. They got stops against the Spartans in East Lansing. And come to show, okay, well, I guess their defense is just pretty good. Even though Illinois scored 38 against them and North Texas scored 33. But I guess for the MAC, they have a good defense. And when Aiden Childs is not having a good game, like he did actually only in week 1 so far, that's what can happen to the Spartans. West Michigan right against Toledo, they win 14-13, low-scoring affair. Tucker Gleason doesn't even clear 90 yards, and he throws 2 interceptions. So good on the Broncos, but again, their offense is so bad. Their O-line's not good. They run it a lot with their quarterback, Lowry. He is their leading passer, obviously, and their leading rusher. Jalen Buckley is their other main back. It's just such a bad offensive football team. And Toledo loses to them is my problem. I don't get it. I know I just spent a lot of time covering West Michigan in a game that's not even about them, but that's me trying to crack the MAC puzzle. Again, you can't do it. Everyone can lose to everybody. So going back to this game, as I got sidetracked talking about the Broncos, Toledo should win because I'll be damned if Akron gets stops. Guys, Jalen Kitna for UAB, who's a good quarterback, Trent Dilfer's their head coach, right? UAB and Jalen Kitna threw for 341 yards against Akron just last week, or 2 weeks ago. I know Tucker Gleason had an all-time bad performance last week against the West Michigan Broncos. He should be able to come through this week. So, give me Toledo. I know that was a very West Michigan-filled prediction, but we had to talk about that nonsense since we're not talking about West Michigan this week. They're playing URI in a FCS game, so I'm going to go Toledo to win and cover. They are much better than Akron. Akron probably won't score. That's just the way I see things here. The one thing that I can say about Toledo, I know they played like crap last week. They do play defense, and it should be tough to score against them. So I'm going to go with Akron to completely get destroyed on the road in the Glass Bowl in this game. Next up, we go to the final game at 12:30, and then we move on to the 1 o'clock hour, and then the 3 o'clock hour, and then the 4 o'clock hour. We got a lot of games left. We go to Navy hosting Rice. Navy is a 14.5-point favorite, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 14.5-point favorite at home in Annapolis against the Rice Owls, and I get why. Navy's played incredible football so far this season. We just talked about UAB and their very capable offense with Jalen Kitna, obviously coached by Trent Dilfer, and Navy went in there and beat them by 14 points in Annapolis. Last week or 2 weeks ago, they go to Tulsa, and they dominate the Golden Hurricane. They win the game by 19 points in the road. That's the same Tulsa team that last week just beat the Big 12's Oklahoma State. So you got to like what you're seeing out of Navy, right? Blake Horvath is back. Is he Bryson Daly? No. And did Bryson Daly play at Navy? No, obviously. He was Army's quarterback, and he was number 8 in the Heisman voting, I believe, last year. No, number 6, I think Bryson Daly was. Blake Horvath is no Bryson Daly, but he does a lot right for Navy, and he does a lot right in the American Conference. I look at Navy, they're a 3-0 team, right? Coming off a victory over the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. You beat VMI in week 1, and obviously you're expected to do that. And now the Rice Owls roll into town, a team that is 3-1, and a team that on Thursday night went on the road and beat Charlotte. We successfully predicted that. Did not get a chance to watch the second half live for that game, but the run game killed Charlotte. Quentin Jackson, not Rampage, Quentin Jackson has 12 carries for 80 yards. Dalen Alexander, 10 carries for 73 yards. And their quarterback, Chase Jenkins, runs it 10 times for 71 yards and a touchdown. All those guys have, capability of ripping off a huge run. And that's what Rice is going to do. They're going to try to run the ball down your throat, and they're going to try to, again, get chunk plays, 7 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards. That's ultimately what Rice is looking to achieve when they're playing you. Well, who's even better at doing that, though? The Navy midshipmen. It's a Navy team at the same time, though, that's going to break off big runs. It's all Horvath. It's Alex Teska. It's Eli Heidenreich. It's Brandon Chapman. There is a plethora of guys who can run the football for Navy. They do throw a little bit. It's nothing to be concerned about. Horvath threw 2 picks against Tulsa. They should be able to run this wing T veer option right through Rice. They do everything Rice does, but just better. And defensively, are they better than Rice? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But I don't think Rice is going to be able to continue it, or I don't think they're going to be able to keep up all game with, okay, well, here comes a Navy 12-yard drive, 80 yards. Can you replicate that, Rice? Oh, you can't? Okay, 3 and out. Here comes Navy back again, wearing out your defense. Again, I think it's gonna start to just snowfall. Is that the right word? It's gonna continue to tumble down for Rice after they fall behind in this game, because now again all the pressure gets on you. Navy's they've always got the ball in their hands. They're always pressuring you, and I just think it's gonna be difficult for the Rice Owls. So I'm going to go with the Navy midshipmen to win the football game. I think they're going to cover at home, too. They're in Annapolis. My goodness, minus 14.5 points. Give me Horvath, Teska, and the guys. They should be able to run it right through Rice, and I think they shall win. They shall win? English is hard sometimes. They'll go to 2-0 in the American Conference. 3-0. 2-0? 3-0. We go on to the Battle of New Mexico. Come on. Who needs Michigan State, right? Who needs USC, UCLA? Who needs Oregon State? Who needs Washington, Wazoo like we saw last week, right? We don't need those games, nah, because right here we've got New Mexico versus New Mexico State. I mean, this is the game you've been waiting for this week, right? In Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's a battle of the 2 New Mexico squads. I think the Lobos are blowing the Aggies out. I think they are. They're levels ahead of what the New Mexico State Aggies are. Guys, New Mexico State's not a good team. I don't care they beat Tulsa. I don't care. Logan Fife, he's an unk playing college football, essentially. He's been around for a million years, right? Awesome. Don't care. Like, I watched Logan Fife play at Fresno back in the day. It wasn't very good. Logan Fife's in year 5 of college football. He's been around since 21. I believe he's a redshirt in 2020, so he's just been around for a while. New Mexico State struggles offensively quite a bit. They have how can I summarize their offense? Their offense, you can look at their stats at the end of the game and be like, oh, wow, like that's a lot of yards. And then you see, how did you only score 14 points? That's just what New Mexico State does, because they can't run the ball. They have no threat of running the football at all. Last week against La Tech, or 2 weeks ago against La Tech, they go on the road. Fife throws for 283 yards, but their leading rusher at 17 yards, their running back. Against Tulsa, Fife throws for 250, and he's their leading rusher with 28 yards. So you know it's coming. They're just going to throw the ball all game long, and it creates for these long-ass games. And when you do stall out offensively, it's just, oh my goodness, possession after possession after possession after possession. And the game just never ends with New Mexico State sometimes, playing out the Conference USA. Oh my goodness, they're going to torture us with the Wednesday night games this year. I know like the CUSA is supposed to be a little bit better this year, so shout out to like Delaware. I'm looking at the schedule right now. New Mexico State plays Missouri State on a Wednesday night. Oh, at New Mexico in Las Cruces. Oh my goodness, that's going to be so brutal to watch. Oh, they get a Sam Houston Thursday night game next week. And like, I have to watch, obviously, because I gotta make videos about this. Oh my goodness. Games like that, right? The CUSA tests your ability sometimes to watch college football. The MAC, I can get into a MAC game. They're all going to be fun. CUSA games, again, I'll say real quickly. The difference between a MAC weekday game and a CUSA weekday game, the MAC, you're going to see 60 combined points, all right? CUSA games, you're lucky if you see 20 combined points on a weeknight game because those teams just don't get up for those games. There's nobody in the crowd. It's so weird. Anyways, New Mexico should blow out New Mexico State. There's a very huge contrast in ability between these two teams because one team can actually run the football. If you're a team, okay, this is basic football stuff, but here, I'll break this down. If you're a team and if you could choose, okay, I can run the ball really well or I can throw the ball really well. Actually, let me correct this for the sake of this game. Would I rather have an offense that can run the ball really well or an offense that can't run the ball at all and is a mediocre passing team? And just has good numbers, passing-wise, because that's all of their offense. I wonder. I'm going to take the offense that runs the ball really well in New Mexico. And actually, their passing game is probably better than New Mexico State's too. They just don't throw it that much. But when they ask Jack Lane to throw the ball, he's statistically a better passer than Logan Fife. New Mexico should dominate this football game. And again, I have so much respect for the New Mexico Lobos and what this, not just school has gone through, but the programs. I mean, Bronco Mendenhall takes his talent to Utah State. Devin Dampier goes to Utah. And obviously, you lose all Eli Sanders, Luke Weissong, they all leave, all your star players. Basketball, you have the best year in school history in years at the Pit, and you lose all your top players. Your coach goes to, oh my goodness, he goes to the Big East. He goes to Cincinnati. Oh my goodness, Xavier. And Donovan Dent goes to play in Hollywood. You're screwed. They were so good in the Mountain West last season. It was a shame. I loved watching New Mexico play basketball last year. And now you have this. So I give them credit for sticking with it, and the football programs bounce back. I mean, you beat UCLA, you beat Idaho State, you stay competitive somewhat against Michigan. Yeah, they're going to dominate New Mexico State. One team can throw and run the football. The other team's just a mediocre throwing team. Give me the Lobos at home. I'm taking New Mexico to win, and yes, they will cover 13.5 points. That's not a lot for them considering New Mexico State doesn't really score in general, so give me the Lobos. Next up, we move on to the Tulsa Golden Hurricane versus the Tulane Green Wave. It's kind of tough for me to pick Tulane here. It is. You're not going to find a bigger Tulane guy than myself, all right? I've been pumping up Tulane this entire season. I was telling you last week they were going to walk into Ole Miss and cover and potentially win. They didn't, and that partially is okay. I didn't think Trinidad Chambliss is as good as he actually is. That dude's good. He's better than Austin Simmons. He should be their starter for the rest of the year. Will they do it? I don't know. Because money's a factor, right? They want to keep Simmons happy. Maybe he'll keep having, they'll stick him on that phantom injury for the rest of the season. Anyways, though, Tulane goes into Ole Miss and they just get beat down. They get beat down. Game's not close. It's a one-sided massacre. Okay. You now go into Tulsa to play the Golden Hurricane, who are playing with the most momentum they're going to have all year long. And on top of that, Tulane, after looking at their worst this season, is still a 12.5-point favorite against a team in Tulsa who just beat a Big 12 school who should have won the game really 19-3 if it's not for the garbage time scores that OK State pulls off. Where do we go now is the question. I think Tulane wins. I would be very surprised if they don't. I still like what Tulane's got, but my goodness, their inability to throw the football last week was so concerning. Jake Retzlaff goes 5 for 17 throwing the football. Brendan Sullivan in relief at the end of the game goes 5 for 12. But Retzlaff, 5 for 17 throwing the ball for 56 yards. He does lead the team in rushing yards with 51 yards on 8 carries, but Retzlaff starts the game 0 for 8 passing, I think it was. That's just really bad. I mean, they had that one drive where they get into field goal range, they get into the red zone, and they couldn't punch it in because they could only run the ball. Because anytime Retzlaff would step back and throw, he could not complete anything. And call that an O-line problem, call that, a problem of you're just getting beat in the secondary. I don't care what you say it is. You're just getting beat, right? And that's brutal. Tulsa plays really well against Oklahoma State. Again, I don't know how to really I don't know where to put that, though. Yes, you're beating a Big 12 school, and you beat down a Big 12 school, but you beat down the worst Big 12 school who can't move a football to save their lives. I don't know where to put that. So what I've come to with this is that I'm going to take Tulane to win, because I'll be surprised if they don't, but I'm going to take Tulsa to cover. I'm going to take Tulsa to cover the plus 12.5. I would expect Tulane's offense to look better. I mean, I don't think they're going to see as much resistance against Tulsa like they saw against Ole Miss, obviously. I believe Retzlaff should be able to get it going in the passing game a lot more this week. It is hard to bounce back, though. It's hard to bounce back if you take that big of a beating against that good of a school. You're banged up after going on the road and losing by that many points. It's difficult. And now it's not like, oh, you just get to return home back to Louisiana. No. Now you got to go back on the road again. You got to go to Oklahoma against a Tulsa team that's playing with a bunch of confidence. They're playing with extreme confidence. Say what you want. Baylor Hayes is okay. Like, Dominic Richardson is the guy who's going to lead that offense. Obviously, had 150 yards in the win over Oklahoma State. But Tulsa's never going to have more confidence than right now. And they should be able to parlay that at least into a competitive game this week against Tulane. And the defense out of Tulsa, truthfully, look good. However, I don't know how much of that is just Oklahoma State's horrible and their offense can't move the ball with Zane Flores. I don't know. And obviously, Ollie Gordon's not around anymore. It's Rodney Fields. I'm going with Tulsa to cover here. Plus 12.5. Tulane should win the football game, though. I'm going Tulsa to cover. Next up, we move on to the only game at 1:10 before a 1:15 game after. We go to the Mountain West as the Air Force Falcons host the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. What a game Hawaii played on late Saturday night. It's, Mountain West after dark, Hawaii game. Of course, you get done watching Michigan State and USC, and shout out to, again, Michigan State for covering at the last second. You get done watching that football game, and, well, you're still tracking Fresno State trying to beat Hawaii on the road. And I got to give a lot of credit to E.J. Warner. Fresno doesn't play this week, so I don't get to highlight the Bulldogs. I might be back in on Fresno State winning the Mountain West. Like, I might fully be back in on that. We'll just wait on that one for a little bit. But Fresno looked really good, and E.J. Warner looked great. I mean, the Hawaii commentator said he looked like Baker Mayfield out there in terms of just not the most athletic guy, but he's going to scramble when you need him to on a 3rd and long. It's a great comp. It is. I don't think, obviously, E.J. Warner's never going to get to the level of Baker Mayfield, but that was a very good comparison, I think, by the Hawaii commentators. Anyways, Hawaii loses the football game. The game that they're in, Micah Alejado just throws a pick six to Thunderbird, Kevon Thunderbird, which I think is the best name in college football. I mean, that just sounds like something out of Cars, the Disney movie, like the Thunderbird car. That's fire. Kevon Thunderbird, one of the linebackers for Fresno, picks off Alejado for a pick six and should have picked him at the end of the game too. But anyways, Fresno's winning the game. They're up by 8 with 2 minutes to go. They, instead of running the ball out and forcing Hawaii to drain the clock into their 40 seconds because they had no timeouts, Fresno with 2 minutes to go throws the football on 3rd and 15. They don't get anything. So you give Hawaii the ball back with no timeouts and 2 minutes left, and somehow they score a touchdown after avoiding multiple 4th downs, or at least converting multiple 4th downs, but then they proceed to lose because they can't get the 2-point conversion. Hilarious stuff. Fresno wins. I was very happy. Did not want to see that game go into overtime. Anyways, it's very clear Alejado's injured. It is. He gets injured right in the Stanford game. He tried playing through the Arizona game, and then in came Luke Weaver to play some of the Arizona game, and then play the Sam Houston game, and then play the game against, the FCS team they played. I'm blanking, Portland State, who's horrible, right? It's very clear Alejado's not 100%. He threw a lot of late balls. Fresno blitzed him, and he didn't really react, so instead he just threw something later, threw something off to his receivers, and obviously allowed for multiple interceptions, and obviously the Thunderbird pick six. Taking on an Air Force team that's 0-2, but an Air Force team that's put up 67 combined points in their first 2 games in the Mountain West this season. They are going to score, and they're throwing the ball quite a bit. They're throwing the ball, they're running the ball. They just ran it, and here's the thing. Air Force can't play defense, but is Hawaii really ready to play the shootout on the road in Colorado? I don't think so. I don't think they're ready for this. The style that Air Force plays at, the pace at which Air Force plays at, especially if Alejado, A, is not at 100%, or B, just doesn't play. If he doesn't play, it's Luke Weaver. If he does play, Alihado was looking really bad. And the Hawaii commentator said, too, like, this is the first time he's ever been dealt with adversity because he's always been in a big spot at Hawaii, or at least he's always been in a lead as the Hawaii starting quarterback ever since he took over the job late in the year last year after the Schrager injury. Air Force is starting Liam Zarka, the sophomore out of Aurora, California. You know, he's going to run. He had 20 carries for 110 yards against Boise. Oh, yeah, he can also throw, too. 13 passes on 18, or 13 completions on 18 attempts for 250 yards last week against Boise. They just don't play defense either, though. They don't play defense at all. Boise puts up 49. Utah State and Bryson Barnes puts up 49 points. But I'm okay with that. Okay? I'm okay with that because I don't think Hawaii is able to do the same thing, and I don't think they have the offensive firepower right now with the injury to Alihado and with the travel involved too. I don't think they have the firepower to walk into Colorado and do that against Air Force. I'm taking the Falcons to win and cover at home, -4.5 for Air Force against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. We move on now to a huge game on the SEC Network as we've got the Tennessee Volunteers going on the road to take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. This is a big one. From Starkville, Mississippi, Tennessee is an 8.5 point favorite on the road against undefeated Tennessee. Undefeated Mississippi State. Last we saw of Tennessee, at least against a ranked team, they lost and blew a win against Georgia. They had a lead late, gave it up. Obviously, right? Their kicker misses a big field goal to win the game. Gunnar Stockton leads a game-winning drive or game-tying drive for Georgia, close the fourth quarter. Tennessee's kicker misses the game-winning field goal. Last week they played UAB. Their kicker got stepped on by a UAB player, which was just odd and weird, but it's okay. Tennessee is now 3-1. Tennessee's 3-1 after the UAB victory. You knew they were going to get that game. Now here's the challenge. You got to go on the road for the first time this season. You played that difficult game at home in Knoxville against Georgia. You lost it, okay. But now you're tasked with the road game against Mississippi State, who's playing with ultimate confidence, who's 4-0, and on the cusp of being ranked. I mean, the Bulldogs know if they beat Tennessee, they're in the top 20, they're in the top 15 probably next week, I would think. Tennessee's ranked 15th. I mean, that's just how they favor SEC squads. Yeah, Mississippi State would instantly, I think, take their spot in the top 15. Hell, they might have them jump Indiana while they're at it. I don't know. Mississippi State's 4-0. You beat Southern Miss in week 1. You beat Arizona State in that whole come-from-behind win, even though Arizona State had to come from behind. Then Blake Shapen hit the big pass over the top to win the game in the fourth quarter. You beat Alcorn, you blow them out, obviously, and then you're just coming off a victory over Northern Illinois. So good on Mississippi State. They're undefeated. They've looked good. Blake Shapen has played really good football in 2025. Tennessee's good, though. Tennessee is really good. This defense is great. Joey Aguilar is playing lights out. It's going to be up to Mississippi State to stay in the football game and keep it competitive. That's what this game's going to come down to. Can you keep up? Because Tennessee, when Joey Aguilar is on, which most nights he is, they are so difficult to stop. Because he's connecting on everything. He's finding Brazel. He's finding Staley. He's finding all of his receivers. His running game's getting going with Star Thomas, with Bavon Lewis. It makes them difficult when everything is going right. Peyton Lewis, not Bavon Lewis. And Deshaun Bishop, right? It makes it difficult. I think Mississippi State's actually up for the task, though. You're at home, 4:15 start, so later start time on the SEC Network. You kind of get shafted on the call on this one. I mean, ESPN couldn't take this game. I mean, I guess they're playing Utah WVU, I guess. What does CBS have? Oh, they've got Ohio State. Yeah. I mean, you're on SEC Network, though. You have a big game, biggest game in Mississippi State since the Arizona State game. And I think they can cover. I don't think they win because I think Tennessee, the difference between these two teams, in my opinion, is the quarterback play. I think Shapen's good. He's not as good as Joey Aguilar is. Joey Aguilar is great. I mean, Aguilar's not the reason they lost to Georgia, obviously. He's the only reason that they were winning, in my opinion. The defense is great for Tennessee, sure, but then what happens when you play Georgia? Oh, okay, well, Gunnar Stockton works his way all the way down the field to tie the football game with a minute left to go. I still believe someone in Tennessee. Like, I think, you know, you look at the rest of their schedule, they have some competitive games, or they have some very tough games coming up. I should say you got to go to Tuscaloosa. You host John Mateer in Oklahoma. We'll get to those games when we get there, but realistically speaking, though, it's not a difficult SEC schedule. There's much harder ones. Hell, look at Mississippi State. Next week, they go to Texas A&M. They have Texas later in the year. They got to play Georgia. They got to go to Mizzou. They get Ole Miss, obviously. Much tougher schedule than what Tennessee's got. I think Mississippi State keeps it close, but I am going to have to go with Tennessee to win the football game. The difference maker in the clutch moment for me will be Joey Aguilar. Joey Aguilar in the clutch moment will make those plays. I think if this is a tied game, if it's a game where, okay, Tennessee's up by a score, they just need to couple first downs and they win it. Joey Aguilar is the guy who you can put the ball in his hands, and yes, he's going to find a way to win because he's done nothing but that so far at Tennessee, and he put his team in a good enough position to beat Georgia. His kicker just couldn't get it done. There's a world, if he makes that kick, Tennessee's in the top 5 right now, and their whole trajectory for the season looks entirely different because now you can afford to lose another regular season game. You don't want to, but you slip up and lose in Tuscaloosa? Okay, no problem. I don't think they would, but you lose to John Maytier at home? Okay, that's fine. You've only had one loss. It's a different mindset now when you already lost in week number 3. I'm taking Tennessee to win, but I do believe the Bulldogs can keep it somewhat close at home. If they can't, shame on you. It's the biggest game you're going to get all year and the most notable you're going to be. This is the most talk you're going to get all year. So take advantage of it if you're the Bulldogs. So that's all I'll say there. Next up, let's go to the 3 o'clock hour as we start off with a banger. Kennesaw State takes on Middle Tennessee from, of course, Kennesaw, Georgia. So Kennesaw might be the surprise of 2025, right? Week 1, they play Wake Forest very competitively. Part of that to me was at the time, Wake Forest just sucks, so let's all laugh at the Demon Deacons because you kept Kennesaw State in the game, and only won by 1 point. Now, we can still do that because Wake Forest is a joke at football. They are. And I don't care how good Kennesaw is supposed to be this season. If you're a Wake Forest, you're an ACC school. You can't keep Kennesaw State in a close game like that. Come on now. But it's okay because we found out really Kennesaw again the week after. They play Indiana and Indiana dominates, right? The Hoosiers beat them by 40+ points. So Kennesaw after that, they take on Merrimack. They win it by 14. Okay, well, it's Merrimack. And then last week, they go out there and beat up on Arkansas State, which really surprised me. I shocked me that they beat Arkansas State. So good on Kennesaw. Maybe Kennesaw State is finally building something. Maybe they are. Because ever since they got brought up from the FCS level, they were a borderline playoff team. They were getting in, but they were usually first round exits in the playoffs in the FCS. They get called up to go play in the CUSA, and they have struggled mightily. Right? Last year was a very difficult season for them. They found a way to beat Liberty because Liberty sucks. I'm sorry, they do. But Kennesaw now has really settled in 2025. You have 2 victories. And now the CUSA is weird. It's a conference where anybody can beat everybody for the most part, except for like the elite squads. Maybe Kennesaw finds their way to 4 victories. Maybe they do. 4 more victories to get to 6 wins and get to a bowl game. I think another victory is going to come tonight, but I think Middle Tennessee keeps it close. So kind of same scenario I had in the Tennessee versus Mississippi State game. I think that the favorite wins, being Kennesaw State in this one. I think the underdog keeps it close. I was a little bit impressed with Middle Tennessee's performance last week. They lost by 14 points, but they come back from behind as Marshall goes up early by 7 points, 21-14. Middle Tennessee's scratching and clawing their way back, right? They ended up going into halftime down by 1. They score in the third quarter to go up by 7. You're thinking, okay, they're up 28-21 in the third quarter. Marshall, though, scores 21 consecutive points in the fourth quarter to win the football game 42-28. Okay. But I have to respect the effort out of Middle Tennessee. Their offense didn't look that bad until it really mattered in the fourth quarter, and the offense evaporated. But Nicholas Vallado is doing a decent job. That's pretty much their entire offense. Yes, they'll run the ball with their lead back, Jaquil Middlebrook, but that run game is not something they really rely on because Middlebrook, you look at his line, wow, 6 carries, 89 yards. Yeah, there's a 72-yard marathon in there. Other than that, there's really no run game for this team. But really not any of the back's fault. It's just the Blue Raiders don't really choose to run the football. That one's kind of by choice. They just don't do it. I don't know. I think they keep it close to Kennesaw. I think, Kennesaw's look good, but the games have still been close. And I don't think we should be too confident in the Kennesaw State Owls to be giving them 6.5 points at home to cover. It's quite a bit. And since they have gone to Amari Odom as their guy, they've been better. Like, this was the right move instead of Dexter Williams. Tommy Yu is here, by the way, too. Former Kent State quarterback Tommy Ulatowski. But Amari Odom's been pretty good, former Wofford quarterback. He's been solid. He's only a sophomore. So maybe this is the guy that turns around Kennesaw State football. I have no idea. They should be able to beat Middle Tennessee State because when it comes down to Middle Tennessee State, they are very pass, heavy. They have nothing else going for them. They had the huge come from behind victory where they beat Nevada, which was just hilarious. How Chuba Purdy and the guys choked that one at home in Reno, and that's why I felt confident enough to say, okay, well, Middle Tennessee's at home last week against Marshall. I mean, they should win that game. I get it's two very bad programs right now. Marshall, obviously, their entire team's playing at Southern Miss, but, I mean, if you go to Nevada and win, I would think you beat Marshall at home, and they don't. I think they can keep it close against Kennesaw on the road. I think they can. It's just, also, this has a potential of being a low-scoring, boring CUSA game. Talked about that earlier with the MAC and the comparisons between MAC weekday games and CUSA weekday games, about how MAC weekday games are going to be the most electric hours you're going to watch on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, and the CUSA you're signing up to watch a 10-9 snooze fest. There's potential that's always something that lingers in the back of my mind with every CUSA game I pick. I'm not telling you it's going to go exactly that way, but it's a possibility. I'm taking Middle Tennessee to cover 6.5 points. It's too many for Kennesaw. I applaud the effort out of both teams. I hope both teams have fun. I'm happy for Kennesaw that they're not just absolute bottom of the barrel now, but I have to go here with Middle Tennessee to cover. I think Kennesaw wins the game, though. Next up, let's go to the other game played at this hour. Back in the Conference USA, 3 o'clock, Liberty, Old Dominion. Obviously, this is Sunbelt versus Conference USA, but here are those Liberty Flames. What happened to the program, man? I don't know what happened. Does it get much worse than their game last week? Is the question. Does it get worse? It can't, right? It can't get worse in that game. I mean, you have to play multiple quarterbacks in that game because your quarterback play has just been so horrendously bad. So, Ethan Vasco's the starter. Former Coastal Carolina Chanticleer. He gets injured, obviously. But what I was getting to is you play Vasco, and then you don't know who your backup quarterback is. So when Vasco gets hurt, you just have two guys, with all due respect, who are mediocre. And now I think one's 18 years old and a true freshman. The other is a redshirt freshman, I believe. But you don't have a solution now that Vasco's out. And I believe, is Vasco out for the year? Last I saw Vasco, it's pretty bad. Yeah, I don't think Vasco's playing. I don't think. So I don't know who's starting this week. Is it going to be Michael Maringer? Or is it going to be Ethan Houck? No clue who it's going to be. I mean, Houck goes 1 for 5 last week in relief against JMU. And Maringer from North Carolina goes 2 for 7 for 20 yards. This school had Malik Willis less than about a half decade ago. They had Malik Willis, who was supposed to be the best quarterback in college football that year. Didn't really turn out. He's going to be a career-long backup, though, and that's not a horrible job to have. They're in trouble this week, and they've been in trouble all year long. Like, even if Ethan Vasco was playing, I would instantly fire on minus 15.5 for Old Dominion, and I'll tell you why in a second. But now with this backup quarterback thing, oh, man, you can't throw the ball. You don't really run the ball that well. Your lead back's Evan Dickens, but Dickens is not a guy that's going to take you. I get Dickens can give you good yards. Is he going to win you a game? No, and not many backs can just win you games in the CUSA. Really, at the G5. Really, just in college football, just a running back's not going to win you a football game. You need a threat of the pass. And if there is no threat of the pass, guys, there is already a very low threat with Ethan Vasco playing quarterback for this football team. When Ethan Vasco's stepping up in the pocket, again, the game against, what was it, Jack State? No, was it Jack State or Bowling Green? He had the 300 yards. It was the Jack State game. Okay. Now, a lot of that came when they were already losing by quite a bit, but at least it's a factor. It gets even worse with Maringer or Houck. Both these guys are freshmen. Both these guys have barely played ever. It is a horrible spot to be in if you are the Liberty Flames here. An absolutely horrible spot. And you look at Old Dominion. What can I say about this team? A 45-26 victory on the road at VTech. You embarrass the Virginia Tech Hokies. Talk about supremacy in the state or bragging rights in the state of Virginia. It doesn't get bigger than that. I mean, it can't get bigger than that. You go on the road, and I know VTech's horrible this year, and we'll talk about them coming up in a little bit. They're very soon here. But you go on the road and you beat Virginia Tech by 19 points. VTech's coach gets fired after the game. You're sending the entire university into a tailspin. And the Monarchs look good. Guys, this team lost by 13 points to Indiana week 1. I was a little concerned about the Hoosiers. I was kind of scared about the play of Fernando Mendoza. I'm not scared anymore. All I found out about that is, as the season has gone on, Indiana's who we thought they were, and Old Dominion's a very good football team. Slight chance, because, I hype up these G5 teams and they fall off a cliff. There's a possibility Old Dominion could win the Sun Belt and they could go to the playoffs. The way that everybody's losing in the American, and the fact that the American is wide open and there's so many good teams in the American where everyone could have 2 losses at the American Conference, it could allow for a team like Old Dominion to sneak in from the Sun Belt. Wouldn't that be hilarious if a Sun Belt team was in the playoffs? That would be fun. I hope that happens, right? So if ODU keeps on winning, what team on ODU's schedule beats them right now? Liberty, Coastal, Marshall, JMU. If they can beat JMU, they're in a great spot. I'll leave it at that with the playoff talk. They will dominate. Ethan Vasco, Liss, Liberty. All right, Colton Joseph's been very good. Dual threat guy. He's going to run for as many yards as he's going to throw, it feels like. ODU will dominate Liberty. Liberty's bad as it is, and now you're without a quarterback. Oh, goodness, this is absolutely brutal for them. Give me the Old Dominion Monarchs at home. Yes, they will cover 16.5. Next up, Big 12. Okay, I am very split on this game. I'm extremely split on this football game as the Arizona Wildcats go on the road to take on the Iowa State Cyclones. This, to me, is one of the closest and toughest games to pick throughout the entire week. It is extremely hard to pick this game because of the fact that Arizona is playing really good football. I know, again, the game last week or 2 weeks ago against K-State is competitive and it's close, but you ask your team to do one thing in a football game, and that is to win. Oh, play hard. Oh, no. You, as a coach, you want your team to do one thing and one thing only. Yeah, you want them to compete, but you want them to win the football game. Okay. Arizona does that. They find a way to win. K-State's in it for most of the game, but Arizona, on their schedule, W. It says a W for Arizona. Fafita plays all right. Defense locks down Avery Johnson and whatever the hell K-State's trying on the other side of the football. And now you walk into Ames to take on Iowa State. An Iowa State team that is 4-0, but an Iowa State team that I think we need to have a discussion about how they should not be ranked this high. Okay. You beat K-State in week 1 in Dublin. Great. It's a difficult place to play with all that travel. K-State has won a total of 1 game since, and that was against North Dakota. Awesome. You beat South Dakota, the Coyotes. Good, you're supposed to. That's an FCS school. You then go beat Iowa by 3 points. Well, just wait till what Indiana does to Iowa. And why is that relevant? Because Iowa State's only ranked 3 spots lower than Indiana. That's why it's relevant. So wait and see what Indiana does on the road at Iowa rather than getting that game at home like Iowa State did at Ames. And then their last game. This is the one that sounds the alarms for me. You beat Arkansas State by 8 points? The same Arkansas State team that just lost and had 28 put on them by Kennesaw? Kennesaw State put more points on Iowa State. Kennesaw State put up more points on Arkansas State than Iowa State did. And I'm supposed to believe Iowa State's the 14th best team in the country? And not only that, they were competitive with Arkansas State. Going into the fourth quarter, that's a 17-16 football game. And yeah, you had to go play that game in Jonesboro. I don't care. You're Iowa State. You're ranked 14th. That game's not supposed to be competitive against a team that's not even cream of the crop right now in the Sun Belt. I thought they were. They're not. And part of why I thought Arkansas State was so good is because of how they played Iowa State. Well, comes to show, Iowa State's just not that good. Arizona's covering. Will they win? That's another thing. Arizona's going to score. Iowa State's defense has looked good so far, and that's what's going to keep them in this football game. Their offense concerns me. Rocco Becht is back. Obviously, he's been around the program for a very long time. Carson Hansen's the lead back. I get that. But they're not a great offense right now. Arizona, you lose Ted McMillan, obviously, to the NFL draft. Noah Fafita's still slinging it. Fafita's slinging it, and he's slinging it quite a bit. And he's got, obviously he doesn't have the targets he had last season, or the target who was a top 10 pick in the NFL, top 5 pick in the NFL draft last year. But you get Luke Weissong from New Mexico. You have Javon Watley. You got Mahdi out the backfield. That's a good team. That's a good team. That's a good offense. That's a team that can score. And can Iowa State keep up with that? I don't think so. No, I know they can't. So the name of the game, if you're the Cyclones, is can you get stops defensively? Well, eventually Arizona is going to score. That's what happened in the K-State game. Like, okay, both defenses are getting stops. K-State can't score those, so eventually, right, Arizona's going to put up points, and eventually Arizona's going to win the football game, right? And I know, right, K-State goes on the run where they have the 75-yard touchdown. Avery Johnson is the 1-yard run, but eventually, again, that catches up to you because eventually Arizona's going to put points on the board. It makes it a difficult spot for Iowa State, in my opinion. It just does. I'm not straight up telling you Arizona's going to walk into Ames and win the football game. Can they? Yes. Will they? That's another question. And I'm not going to commit one way on that. I'm not going to commit to, Arizona's going to go in there and win. Again, they have the potential to do so. I'm not willing to just straight up tell you that they're going to do that right now. They should cover, though. 6.5 points is a lot of points. And for an Iowa State team that's not blowing out anybody right now. They beat K-State by 3, and knowing what we know now about K-State, you should probably beat that team by more. You beat Iowa by 3 points. Okay, that's fine. Rivalry game. I can kind of throw that one out. But then you beat Arkansas State by 8 points. An Arkansas State team that just lost by 7 to Kennesaw State. If your games are that competitive against Arkansas State and K-State, what happens when Arizona comes to town? Again, if the answer is it's a competitive game again, I'm okay with that. Because we are given 6.5 points on the road. Do you think Iowa State can beat them by a touchdown? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. The way that they're playing, the way Rocco Beck's throwing the football right now, again, is he playing horribly? No. It's not game-changing, what he's doing. I'm taking Arizona here. I'm taking the Wildcats. I think they cover 6.5 points. The winner is beyond me. Don't care. The best play, though, for this specific game is 100% the Arizona Wildcats to walk into Ames, Iowa, and cover the 6.5 points. Next up, we go to these clowns. Clowns are the Virginia Tech Hokies. I don't even have anything, I don't hate Virginia Tech. I have no association to Virginia Tech. It's just, I'm calling out bad football right now is what I'm doing, okay? And I'm calling out a team that just lost Old Dominion, who I get is good, but it's what you did prior to that as well. It's what you have done throughout the entire season. It's more than just that one loss, okay? You beat Wofford. I'm happy for VTech, right? I was concerned they were going to lose that game, legitimately. I thought there was an outside chance they might lose the Terriers of Wofford. They win it. So you're 1-3 now, but your 3 losses to start the season are South Carolina, where you can't move the ball. You have 0 yards once you get over the 50-yard line against the South Carolina Gamecocks. And then Vandy just bitches you, obviously, at home. And then Old Dominion walks in there and puts 45 points on you. Awesome. Credit to VTech, they beat Wofford. Gotta give the Hokies credit. They win a football game. And now you got to go back on the road for your first ACC game of the year. Against a team that's not that good, but a team that, if anything else, will score points. They'll give up points, but that's the problem for VTech. They can't score. I get it. Oh, they put 38 up on Wofford. Kyron Jones finally has a good game. He throws for 300 yards. That's awesome. Marcellus Hawkins runs the ball 13 times for 80 yards. Great. Awesome for the Hokies. Now you play an ACC squad with, and I know not an ACC team that's known for the defense, not a team that has, a bunch of run stoppers and guys who are, guys are going to attack ball in the secondary. They don't really have that at NC State. It's still ACC talent, and it's still an ACC program, and it's still an ACC team, which means VTech's going to struggle because they have struggled against any high level of competition so far this year. You beat Wofford. I don't care about you beating Wofford. That's an FCS school. What has NC State done so far this year? You beat East Carolina by 7 points. Okay, well, that team's difficult. It is. East Carolina can be tough on a Thursday night to start the season. Obviously, with Caden Hauser playing, that's a difficult football team. Then you get Virginia in week 2. You beat them by 4 points. You go to Wake Forest. You're losing the first half. You come back and win the football game. And sure, you lose to Duke. But C.J. Bailey, for as many picks as he throws for 370 yards. Hollywood Smothers has ran for 100 yards plus in each of his last 3 games. I like what NC State is doing right now. They're going to move the football. If nothing else, they will move the ball in Virginia Tech. Can you say the same exact thing about the Virginia Tech Hokies? You cannot. Just because you move the ball against Wofford doesn't mean you're going to move it against NC State, okay? I'm taking the North Carolina State Wolfpack here. Minus 10.5 points. They should cover. Games in Raleigh. It's not like Virginia Tech plays well in Virginia either, but here's the thing. Their season's been so bad, and they haven't been on the road just yet. Yeah, they played the neutral site against South Carolina, but technically not a road game. That's a neutral site. You play at home against Vandy, you play at home against Old Dominion, and you lose both. What happens when you go on the road? Even worse. I'm glad you finally got your win, but now you're going to lose to NC State. The real question is going to be, who wins the battle of ass next week? VTech, Wake Forest. Ooh, what a matchup that's going to be. Next up, let's go to Jack State versus Southern Miss. Am I willing to put more back on Southern Miss after last week? Final score is 30-20. It's not actually that close, truth be told. I haven't seen Braylon Braxton play a worse football game in a bit, I'm going to be honest. I was severely disappointed by the football game that Braylon Braxton played. They make him throw the ball a lot, but Braxton makes multiple mistakes. They had a touchdown that got called back at one point. He throws a pick six that honestly was just the dagger. It was the dagger that was put in the second quarter. It was a 17-10 game. Southern Miss was trailing, but they were always just kind of responding to La Tech, right? La Tech would score, okay. Southern Miss would go down the field, and they'd do the same exact thing. So La Tech scores a touchdown, okay, here comes Southern Miss to replicate that. They're going to put those same exact points on the board. They're down 17-10 in the first quarter because, legitimately the game starts with La Tech touchdown, Southern Miss touchdown. La Tech field goal, miss field goal. La Tech touchdown, okay. Here comes Southern Miss driving down the field, and pick six. Okay, well, Southern Miss gets the ball back. They don't do anything. Here comes an 80-yard drive for La Tech, and the game was over once that happened, right? Braxton and, hits Davis Dalton for a touchdown in the fourth quarter to cut the lead to 10, but that's with 22 seconds left on the board. So, right, Braylon Braxton throws the ball 47 times last week for Southern Miss against La Tech for 400 yards. But that doesn't mean anything when you're losing the game by 10 points. And they had a lot of trouble running the ball. They couldn't get anything going on the ground against La Tech. And La Tech, for as many yards as Braxton ends up throwing in the final stat sheet, it was a challenge to move the ball downfield for Southern Miss in that football game. It was. Now you go back home to take on the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Jack State is a team that is 2-2. Victories, though, are mid-games. Mid-opponents is what I should say. You beat Liberty, which, how I feel about the Flames. I mean, that they're good in basketball some years, and they used to be good in football. I don't know what happened to them. It's a shame, because when Liberty's good, they're fun. They have talent there. They have a very good fan base that's willing to go to games, willing to go on the road, and my goodness, it's been a mess for them. But Jack State's wins are Liberty, and then Murray State, the Racers, out of the Missouri Valley Conference. Okay. I mean, I can't put much into that. So, other than that, for Jack State, they lose to UCF in a competitive game. They lose 17-10. Obviously, right, Gavin Wimsatt's the starting quarterback, and he doesn't do much of note, at least in the past game ever. But this is a former Rutgers quarterback out of the Big Ten. They stay competitive against UCF. Their defense is solid in that game, but then their defense reverts to being pretty bad against a good offense, in all fairness, in Georgia Southern, where the Eagles go out there and put up 41 points on Jack State. Gamecocks lose 41-34. Coming off a victory over Murray State, that's awesome, but now they're back on the road taking on Southern Miss. Jack State falls into the same problem every single week. What happens when you can't run the football anymore? And so far, so good, right? But in the Georgia Southern game, they're always trailing, and they're always down 1 or 2 scores. So you're always, okay, if you're Jack State, you can score by running the football. But if you lose on a possession, or you don't score on one possession, and your defense already is not that good, because that's been established now. I don't know what happened in the UCF game. I guess that was more just of Central Florida being bad offensively with Taven Jackson in week number 1. But when you don't get out to a lead, and you are trailing, it's hard to get back when you're down multiple scores, and you have to run the football. Because, okay, yeah, you can eventually score, probably. But now, okay, you get the ball, you're going to get the ball back. Defense can't get a stop. And you're back down by the same amount of points as your last drive. And now you just have less time. And it's, okay, the cycle just repeats itself again. That's the problem with this team when they can't really throw. Wimsatt's still a below average passer. I was hoping that him going down to the him going down to the group of 4, group of 5 would help that. I don't think it has entirely, unfortunately, for him. We'll see what we get out of Southern Miss. The defense that is not bad. Their offense didn't put them in great positions. La Tech had some very long drives that burnt out Southern Miss last week. As a whole, though, I expect Southern Miss to win the football game. They have more talent than Jacksonville State. And once again, if you are able to stop this team's run game and force them to get behind by a lot, they're probably just not coming back. And that's unfortunately what Gavin Wimsatt that's what I kind of believe around Gavin Wimsatt right now. But it's the truth. I'm just going to keep it a buck with you. So, give me Southern Miss at home to cover. It's 3.5 points. It's not a lot. I still believe, again, just because they lose at La Tech doesn't mean I'm completely down on this team, right? That's a non-conference game. They're still in the Sun Belt. This is another non-con game, obviously, with Jack State out of the CUSA. But you get this game at home this time, right? Southern Miss is a 1-0 team so far in the Sun Belt, the win over App State. I still believe they are the best team out of the Sun Belt West. It's either them or Texas State, or I guess Troy now, I guess. But I like what we have out of Southern Miss. They're playing in a weak Sun Belt West, right? The Sun Belt West is much worse than the Sun Belt East. But give me Southern Miss to win the football game at home and cover the 3.5 points against the Jack State Gamecocks. We move on now to a matchup between two CUSA squads. We get a CUSA conference game here from Springfield, Missouri, as the Missouri State Bears play their first ever CUSA game against a Conference USA opponent in the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Western Kentucky is a favorite in Missouri State's first ever game in conference. They are a 5.5 point favorite of the Hilltoppers, and it makes sense. Now, Missouri State's played decent football this season. I will have to give them credit. They have played decent football, and they've played well enough football to keep them competitive in a couple football games, right? You lose week 1, you get dominated by USC. That's not really the game that you want to have when you're making your debut, obviously, into FBS football. It's USC. We know how good Jaden Mavia is and all the weapons that the Trojans have. You lose the game 73-13. It's okay. You bounce back. You go to Marshall. You get your first ever FBS victory. Lose to SMU, but you take a playoff team to a kind of close game. You lose to SMU by 18 points. You're going to take that. And then last week, go out there and beat a former FCS foe, kind of, in the UT Martin Skyhawks. Now you're 2-2 and you enter CUSA play. And again, like I said earlier, anything can happen in CUSA play. The worst CUSA teams can beat the best CUSA teams. Hell, we saw it last year with Kennesaw State and Liberty. Not saying Liberty was the best team in the CUSA. At least they were projected to win the CUSA and heavily favored to win the CUSA with now Colorado starter in Caden Salter. Missouri State hosts Western Kentucky this week. I have made the point that every team in the CUSA can beat every team in the CUSA, but Western Kentucky legitimately might be the best team, but I don't know. That might be Delaware right now. The Blue Hens have come up to FBS football and played lights out so far. I did tell you they're going to go to FIU and win, and they did that, and they did a lot more than that. They beat FIU by 22 points. The game I'm excited for is FIU and WKU next week Delaware and WKU next week in Delaware. That's going to be fun. But first, Western Kentucky's got to pick up their first USA victory like Delaware did last week against FIU in Florida, in Miami. And Western Kentucky's got to do that on the road in Missouri. They should be able to. Guys, I'll be damned if Missouri State wins their first ever game in the CUSA against a pretty good team at that in Western Kentucky. A Western Kentucky team that already has a CUSA victory this season. That's a win over Sam Houston. They beat Nevada last week. Nevada walks into Bowling Green, Kentucky, and as expected, WKU takes over the football game and wins it. It is really an 8-point victory that turns into a 15-point victory with a touchdown with about 25 seconds left to go, but that's neither here or there. Good for the Hilltoppers. I still do believe enough in Maverick. I think Maverick is good. I think the defense is getting better after that embarrassment loss to Tucker Gleason in Toledo, and that's what just didn't make sense about the Toledo Western Michigan game. I witnessed Toledo dominate WKU, and now they're losing, or they're putting up 70 yards passing to Western Michigan. That's what just didn't make sense for me in that whole equation, but that's fine. WKU should probably beat Missouri State. I like what the Bears have got going. I'm surprised, honestly, and I'm surprised with the quarterback play of Jacob Clark. He's been good, but at the same time, Jacob Clark's just not afraid to launch the football. He'll throw it 50 times a game if need be. Not that many times, but he's a gunslinger. He's going to throw touchdowns, and he's going to throw picks too. That's just what the guy does. I like that Missouri State's trying. And they're doing more than trying. They're playing good football, right? And they're just throwing everything at teams, and they're seeing what works. I know they're hosting WKU, but WKU should win. They're the more complete team. They're the better team. They're a team that's, again, they've been in CUSA football for a longer time. They've already won a CUSA game against, albeit 0-4, Sam Houston State. But Western Kentucky is the better football team in this one. I think they will be able to turn over Missouri State quite a bit, again, with Clark. And I do worry about, okay, Missouri State doesn't really have a run game. They don't. It's Shamari Lawrence is their lead back, but he's only cracked 50 yards once this season, so I'm going to go Western Kentucky to win the football game. I'm a big fan of what Maverick's doing at quarterback there. I know he didn't have a great game against Nevada, but that's just a gritty game. WKU comes back and wins in the fourth quarter, right? They were down 13-10 going into the fourth. WKU outscores Nevada 21-3 in that fourth. And sure, again, right, it was an 11-point game. Nevada hits a field goal and then a kick return touchdown on an onside kick. It is what it is. Give me WKU to win this football game. They are very good in the CUSA. Are they the best team, though? We will find out that next week against the Delaware Blue Hens. On now to our next game. It is the final game, I believe, of the 4 o'clock hour. We go to the American Conference. Actually on ESPN2 from Boca Raton, Florida. We have the Memphis Tigers going on the road to take on the Florida Atlantic Owls. FAU is 1-2, coming off a disappointing loss last week to the FIU, or 2 weeks ago against the FIU Panthers. That was part of round 1 of picking against FIU because FIU is not that good, and FAU couldn't come through. But thankfully, the Blue Hens yesterday, or 2 days ago, came through for us. So again, I like what the Blue Hens have been doing in 2025. It's been impressive, and I'm excited for their game next week against Western Kentucky. FAU's 1-2. They have struggled to win football games straight up. Caden Vetkamp has struggled to hold on to the football. He's throwing for big yards in every single game, but the interceptions is a problem. So we just talked about Western Kentucky and their new quarterback, Maverick. Caden Vetkamp has already almost thrown as many interceptions this year as he did in his entire career at Western Kentucky. And sure, that's like 14 starts, but still, you've played 3 games and you've already thrown as many interceptions as you did in 14 starts as a Hilltopper. That's concerning. He's moving the ball downfield, and FAU is letting Caden Vetkamp throw it all night long. That's what they're letting him do. I mean, he threw the ball 50 times against FIU, 51 times against FIU, 49 times against Maryland. And yeah, you look at the final score of FIU, oh, it's a 10-point game. The game was out of reach, really, pretty early in the third quarter. FIU scores 21 consecutive points. They're up 17 going into the fourth, and FAU blocks a punt for a touchdown. Nothing in the offense did. The special teams unit comes through, and they make it a 10-point game, but obviously by then, game's essentially over. There's less than 8 minutes left. FIU, gets the ball back. They're fine. They win it by 10 points. Again, Vetkamp throws for 343 yards, but those are kind of empty stats at the end of the day when you're not winning. You know who is winning? The Memphis Tigers. Oh, man. Now, this team is good. Memphis 4-0 this year, and sure, did they get bailed out with the fumble at the end of the game against Arkansas last week? They did, but a win is a win is a win. And I don't know how they're doing it with Brendan Lewis, but Brendan Lewis leaves Nevada, and he's 4-0 as the starting quarterback for the Memphis Tigers. How? I don't know. He hasn't really done anything crazy, but they're undefeated, and a lot of that credit has to go to Sutton Smith, who is the lead back here, 400 yards in 4 games. Sutton Smith in his last outing against Arkansas, 150 yards. He has been dominant. He's scored a touchdown in every single game so far. Ripped off a big 64-yard run against Arkansas in that win. Sutton Smith is pretty damn good. And that run game is dominant. Brendan Lewis is one really good receiver in Cortez Branham. He kind of just singles in on his former teammate from Nevada. That's what he did last year, and he's doing it again this year. Okay, there's some familiarity, obviously, there. I'm going to take Brendan Lewis's Memphis to go to 5-0. I can't believe it. They're going to continue to win games. They are on the road here, but guys, FAU just turns over the ball too much. And if you give Memphis extra possessions, they're going to capitalize because of that run game. And what Brendan Lewis is doing now, instead of at Nevada where he's trying to just force things, make big plays, he's letting the run game kind of carry him a little bit. And this is a Memphis team where, okay, it looked like they were down and out against Arkansas. Arkansas had that one. It was 28-10 in the second quarter. Memphis comes back and wins it 32-31. And Sutton Smith, again, the 64-yard touchdown is the game winner with 5 minutes to go. He is essentially putting this team on his back and Memphis is winning. Why wouldn't they beat FAU, a team that just lost to FIU? I get it, the game's in Boca Raton. We bring the boom. But I'm going with Memphis to cover the 13.5 points on the road. They should dominate the Owls. Sutton Smith and Brandon Lewis, man, they're winning games this year. And again, the American Conference is absolutely loaded. Okay, and here's a big one. Penn State at home. Happy Valley. I don't know if they're doing a whiteout. If they're not, they should. Penn State at home against the Oregon Ducks. It does not get bigger than this. Penn State, the number 3 ranked team in the country, taking on the number 6 ranked team in the country, the Oregon Ducks. Now, both these teams need to watch out because they are playing the Indiana Hoosiers later in the season, and that's the one they should be concerning themselves with. But first, let's let these two get their fun in. Oregon goes on the road to take on Penn State. Cheapest ticket is $500 to get in the building. Are we serious? Holy crap. The Nittany Lions haven't been tested yet this year. And I think you can say the same about Oregon, but Penn State's schedule has been extremely weak. Nevada, we just talked about Nevada and how bad they've been. Okay. FIU, come on. They beat Florida Atlantic. That's not a good team. They beat them by 34 points. And then Villanova. Katie Dixon's not playing. This isn't basketball, okay? Not concerned, right? Those are 3 easy matchups, right? Oregon so far this season, they are 4-0. You beat Montana State, you beat OK State, you beat Northwestern on the road, and you dominate Oregon State last week 41-7, like expected. Again, have they really been tested yet? I don't think I can say that. They haven't played elite programs just yet, nor elite teams, but they've won. And they've beat everybody on their schedule just like Penn State. And now these two teams will clash. Obviously, the game's in Pennsylvania. It's at Happy Valley, and that's going to be difficult for Dante Moore. It's by far the biggest game he's ever played in his collegiate football career. Obviously, did not start last season behind Dylan Gabriel, and now you immediately get thrusted into this big moment, right? If you don't know Dante Moore, right, former quarterback at UCLA, here we go, right? This is a huge game that he has to play, and it's a big game for Oregon. When you think about the rest of their schedule, obviously for Penn State too, but this is a road game. If you can win this one, essentially you can lose 2 more games for the rest of the season and still make the playoffs, just because of how huge this game is. And same for Penn State. Penn State still got Indiana and Ohio State on their schedule. Oh, by the way, they have Indiana the week after Ohio State, which I love, by the way, for the Hoosiers. That's tremendous. Can't wait for that. Anyways, this is a big football game. It's a huge football game. Drew Aller's done everything Penn State's needed him to do so far this season, but with that, it hasn't been the most impressive numbers. We're looking at 200 passing yard days 3 games in a row for Drew Aller against Nevada, FIU, and Nova. Your run game's really good, obviously, right, with Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, but would I be crazy to say Penn State hasn't looked too great this year? And it's not because, you just lost Tyler Warren. You don't have Abdul Carter anymore in your defense. But I don't know. Penn State hasn't looked that good. Don't get me wrong. They look like a good team, but they don't look like the number 3 team in the country to me. To me, Oregon looks way better. Oregon's blowing everybody out. And sure, Penn State's doing that too, but you're beating FIU. You're beating Villanova. You're beating Nevada. Oregon's beating teams who I get are not having good seasons. But you beat the FCS champions last year in the Montana State Bobcats, or the team that finished second place, in the FCS last year, the Montana State Bobcats, who lost to North Dakota State. You beat Montana State. You beat Oklahoma State, who I guess not having a good year, but that's a Big 12 school. You play your first Big 10 game. You go to Northwestern. I don't care how bad Northwestern may be. You go on the road and win a Big 10 game. That's a big deal. And then you win your rivalry game against Oregon State. And none of these games are competitive. That's the difference between Oregon's blowout games and Penn State's blowout games. Who's better, Dante Moore or Drew Aller? I actually think it's Drew Aller. I know Aller has been extremely unimpressive this season. Aller, to me, I think, is the better quarterback. I think if you put Aller at Oregon, I think they have the same exact record. It's just the pieces, I think, Miller on roster, in my opinion, is actually better at Oregon. Maybe I'm wrong. Just the way and this is as simple as just the eye test. Watching both these teams play on a weekly basis and watching who they're playing. To me, Oregon looks like the better squad. And I think the odds kind of indicate that, and the only reason why Penn State's a slight favorite is because the game's at Happy Valley. I'm not going to let my pick get affected by that. I know it should, but I truly think Oregon's the better football team, and I think they can go on the road and win. I think so. I really believe in Dan Lanning as a coach. I think Dan Lanning is one of the premier coaches in college football. James Franklin, he's all right. I don't know. These two teams did meet in the Big Ten championship game last year, if you remember, obviously, because Ohio State lost to Michigan. Oregon went out there and beat Penn State by 8 points in the Big Ten title game. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel was around. That game was at a neutral site in Indianapolis. I think Oregon beats Penn State again. I think they do it on the road. Might be a controversial take, but I'm taking the Oregon Ducks to go on the road and beat the Penn State Nittany Lions. Plus 3.5. I'm going to take plus 130, I think. I don't know. I'll decide on that if I'm taking the spread or money line later. We might have a best bet later in the week. Give me Oregon, though, to win the football game on the road in Pennsylvania against Penn State. And the hits keep on coming. Let's go to Athens, Georgia, as we have the Georgia Bulldogs at home taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Oh, man. This is the game that could just bury Alabama, because it's not like the schedule gets easier from here on out. You get Vandy at home next week, which in a normal year and with normal Vanderbilt football, you're thinking, oh, no problem. Bama should roll them. Well, last year Vandy beats Bama in Nashville, and the way Vanderbilt's playing right now, there's a very good chance, well, if Georgia wins, Vandy's going to be ranked higher than Alabama next week come that game. Bama's going to be ranked probably like 24th next week if they lose to Georgia. And then after that, you go to Missouri, you host Tennessee, and then you get South Carolina on the road, should win that game, but then, here comes LSU. Here comes John Matier in Oklahoma. And then FCS game in the Iron Bowl. I mean, there's no breaks for Alabama. I mean, it should be easily said. They're not going to the playoffs this year. And I'll just say it right now, they're not beating Georgia. This team's not going into Athens and winning. Georgia has had a full 2 weeks to prepare for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And sure, Bama has too. Look who Bama's beaten, and look who Georgia's beaten. Look at the talent on Georgia, and look at the talent on Alabama. Alabama doesn't run the football. They are so entirely on Ty Simpson throwing the ball, getting it to Jeremy Bernard, getting it to Ryan Williams and Isaiah Horton. They don't run the ball at all. That's going to be a factor in this game. I know Georgia doesn't run it the best, but you have the ability with Gunnar Stockton. You have the ability with Nate Frazier. I don't like the running game at all for Bama because they don't rip anything. And I've said it before, I will say it again. Did Georgia get worse at the quarterback position in 2025? 100% they did. They let their best quarterback on roster last year walk, and now he is playing for Miami, and he's the second best quarterback in college football behind Fernando Mendoza. Yes, this is the week that I'm saying Fernando's the best quarterback in the sport. He is. He's the best college football quarterback. Call it a weak quarterback class. Fernando Mendoza is going to be the first quarterback taken. Dare I say he's going to be the first pick in the NFL draft next season, okay? Watch that guy play. The precision on his passing. He's the best quarterback right now in college football. Yes, he's better than Carson Beck. Slightly better than Carson Beck. Fernando is just that guy. Anyways, I think even with Georgia giving up on Carson Beck and allowing him to go to Miami, Gunnar Stockton's done an all right job. I think, again, that there's a decrease in play. However, Gunnar Stockton does fit what Kirby Smart kind of wants to do, and that is okay. If we need to, we can run you. Carson Beck is not the best runner of the football. Gunnar Stockton is more than willing to do so, and yeah, he can sling it as well. And that's where Alabama's going to struggle. I don't think they can contain this Georgia offense, man. At the same time, Georgia's defense is going to show up. Can Bama score? Bama lost to Florida State. I think Georgia's better than Florida State, I think. I know last year, competitive game, Carson Beck throws for 450 yards in Tuscaloosa. Bama wins it, 41-34, crazy game. Jalen Milroe and Bama's up huge early. Georgia makes the huge comeback, and then Ryan Williams makes the play that got him all that fame, obviously, at 18 years of age. Was he 17 still for that? I think he was. Scores the game-winning touchdown. Georgia's better this year, and Alabama's worse, and the Kalen DeBoer era just has not gone well yet at Alabama, and it's not going to go well here. On the road, this is going to be brutal for them. Georgia wins, and Georgia wins quite easily. -3.5, even better if you can get 2.5. But yeah, this is automatic for me for Georgia at home. Next up, okay, like we just went from the 2 games of the week to this monstrosity. Missouri is at home and they're taking on the UMass Minutemen. Of course, the team I have coined the U-Ass Minutemen. Who's worse in college football? Who is worse? Is there a team that's worse? Maybe Sam Houston, maybe UCLA, but let's just be real. Is UCLA or even Oregon State losing a football game to UMass? No. I think this is the bottom of the barrel worst team in college football. They don't know what they're doing. They have started a different quarterback, or at least played a different quarterback has played majority of the snaps in each of the first 3 weeks of the season each of the first 3 weeks of the season for UMass. Week 1, it was Brandon Rose. You get a home game against Temple, you lose it by 32 points. Week 2 against Bryant, you lose by 1. It's Grant Jordan, the senior, getting the start. Last week, majority of the snaps went to A.J. Harrison as the game went on. Harrison actually got a good amount. I don't know if he got a majority of snaps, but against Iowa, Harrison ends up playing late in the 4th quarter. I think Grant Jordan actually got more snaps. I'm pretty sure he did. But anyways, Harrison throws for more yards, so I'm just going to go with this narrative. And Harrison leads their team in passing. So they've had 3 different leaders in passing in 3 consecutive games. And I get it. Okay, are you going to go to Iowa and win? No, it's Iowa. I mean, I'm surprised UMass even scored once. It was a Grant Jordan touchdown run in the 2nd quarter. Awesome. They don't have good quarterback play, so I guess it is Grant Jordan's going to continue to be the guy. I have no problem with that. He's been the best, obviously, between him and Rose and Harrison. Good Lord, this team's so bad, man. But this is what UMass does to themselves. But because they are in the MAC, and well, they joined the MAC, and now they just feel like, oh, okay, we got to join the MAC tradition of just getting beat up every single year by these monsters. But in all fairness, Massachusetts has always done this. Last year they played Georgia. Did they play Ole Miss last year too? I think it was Ole Miss. It was Missouri. They played Missouri too. Missouri actually came to UMass last year and beat them by 42 points. It's just a UMass tradition. Obviously, they have less of these spots now to fill against powerhouses because they used to be an independent. Now they play in the Mid-American. But, the MAC start for UMass has gone great, right? You're 0-3, about to be 0-4 before your matchup against West Michigan next week, which I'm hoping West Michigan's anywhere near -9.5. They probably won't be. They'll probably be like -13.5. I don't really need to go over Missouri much. They're undefeated. Huge victory last week over South Carolina. Great victory. They're a good team. They're not as good as they were. Are they good? Are they better than last year? Because I feel like that team last year was just really good. Brady Cook, Theo Weiss, Luther Burden, obviously. They have a good record, 4-0 right now. You beat South Carolina, who's kind of a hospital team right now. You beat Kansas. We'll learn a lot about Missouri when they play Alabama. And I know Alabama, again, we're not over the moon about, but that's a game where we're going to realize, okay, Missouri will be 5-0 going to the Bama game because they're going to beat up on Massachusetts. Will they cover 43.5? Probably. They won last year by 42 at Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is much worse this season. Again, I don't know where you want to rank Mizzou's team this year compared to last year, but obviously we know UMass is much worse. They're the worst team in college football. So, again, minus 43.5 is the pick. I don't bet it, okay? The question for me, though, right, is what is Missouri going to be like in the Bama game? They get the game at home, and, again, Bama will be now... Wow. Bama's got to play Georgia, Tennessee, then Missouri, right? So, no, not Tennessee. Georgia, Vandy, and Missouri. So, we'll get to see a lot more on what Alabama's really made of. If somehow, some way, Bama beats Georgia and Vandy, I mean, they're going to be top 8 going into that game against Missouri, and it's going to be a huge, huge opportunity for the Tigers. There's also a chance Alabama's unranked for the first time in years going into that game against Mizzou. So, we'll see. There's a lot that's going to happen from here, Missouri's game against UMass, to that Alabama game in a couple weeks' time. But yeah, I got to go Missouri. I would not bet on the game. This would probably be legitimately the last thing I'd bet on this week because I don't want to sweat, can Missouri win by 6 touchdowns and a field goal on a Saturday night? Like, there's so many better things I could do. No. And also, I'm watching Bama, Georgia, and I'm watching Penn State, Oregon. Like, I'm not wasting my time with this, with all due respect, okay? Next up, we go to the Mountain Pac West. The Mountain 12 Pac West. Wazoo versus Colorado State. Wazoo continues their tour of playing Mountain West teams. I think they're going to lose, but I don't I don't know what to say about Wazoo, man. Like, that South Dakota State game, I was actually really optimistic about them. I didn't think Wazoo was going to be that good coming into the season, but they have that really weird game against Idaho where they only scored 13 points and barely get out of that game in Pullman with the victory. And they host San Diego State the next week. I thought they were going to win. Wasn't too confident, but they win and they blow out San Diego State. Awesome. And go to North Texas. Didn't think they were going to beat North Texas, but you lose by 49. And then you get blown out by Washington in a game that you were actually competitive in the first 3 quarters. And then just to sell the spread, you decide, Vegas called. Go beat us down by 35 points. Like, really? Now you go to Colorado State. A Colorado State team that lost to UTSA. Which I didn't think they were going to, but they do. This is a weird game. It's a low-scoring affair, so no points are scored in the third quarter, and then going into the fourth, right, or in the fourth quarter, Colorado State takes the lead, or ties the game against UTSA. It's 10-10. Owen McCown then throws a 74-yard touchdown on the ensuing possession with 4 minutes to go to take a 17-10 lead. Anyways, Colorado State proceeds to score, and they go for 2 with the game on the line with 20 seconds left. At home, you go for 2, and you lose. Normally, that's not what you do. Normally, you actually take the game into overtime if you're... Whatever. You know, I am going to question it, but that's odd. Also, the biggest news, Braden Fowler-Nicolosi gets benched. Because the offense actually has been extremely stagnant for Colorado State. Fowler-Nicolosi's been their guy. He's been around for quite a bit. Obviously, he was the quarterback when, we had the big Colorado State games with Shedeur Sanders and whatnot, right? The kind of rivalry game that happened with Travis Hunter and whatnot, and him getting, the targeting call and whatnot against Travis Hunter in that game in Boulder at Folsom Field. Fowler-Nicolosi's benched now. And I don't know if this is a permanent thing, but, I guess after he went down, after they benched him, Jackson Brousseau leads the game-tying drive, and Colorado State just decides to go for 2, and I guess, again, like, with Fowler-Nicolosi, they scored 3 points, and you throw Brousseau in the game, and they score 13 in the fourth quarter. It's kind of brutal for Fowler-Nicolosi, who's been their guy, but, in all fairness, I kind of saw it coming. Well, kind of. Look at the North Colorado game. They don't score until the very end of the game, where, again, Nicolosi does lead the game-winning drive, but you're in a dogfight with the North Colorado Bears? You win it, but you need heroics from Fowler-Nicolosi, who didn't play a good game prior to that. Now, they're not running the ball extremely well either, but it is interesting that, Fowler-Nicolosi has completely, gotten the short end of the stick here. They also do have Taj Bullock, who's a former Akron product on the roster, and he did run for a rushing touchdown. They use him in some Wildcat spots. I don't know why, if you're Taj Bullock, you lose the starting job at Akron, you get beat out by Ben Finley, and you decide, I'm going to go to the Mountain West and play. Go play in the FCS. There's a lot of teams in the FCS that you could play at. I don't know why. You know what? Whatever. I'm sure he's happy legitimately being a Wildcat guy for Colorado State. So Colorado State loses to UTSA in a preventable loss, but now you get Wazoo, who I don't think could ever be at a lower point. No, they definitely can be, but this team's hit rock bottom, it feels like. They're horrible, man. And they're getting blown out every game that they play, too. I'm going Colorado State here. And I think, maybe benching Nicolosi's for the better. I think it is. You got to look how they played last week against Texas San Antonio without Nicolosi on the field and with Jackson Brousseau, and they actually moved the ball with the new quarterback in. So I'm going to go Colorado State. Wazoo's just been that bad in the last 2 weeks. They have no run game. Their quarterback in ZV has to do everything, and eventually that's going to catch up to you. So I'm going to be going with the home team here. Colorado State, new quarterback switch and everything. I'm going with the Rams to win at home and cover the 4.5 points in the process as well. We go on to our next game. I love this bet. I absolutely do. I don't know if I will be in attendance for Stanford and San Jose State this week for the sole reason of there's so many better games to watch on TV, and I don't know if I want to go to Stanford and watch this game. But it is like $5, and I will be betting on it. And I will be betting on the Stanford Cardinal. Yep. There might not be a better spot we get all year long for the Stanford Cardinal than right here. And I thought it was week 0 against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. It was not, because Stanford's a joke sometimes. You Can't be that big of a joke, though, to lose to San Jose State. Here, let me tell you how big of a joke the San Jose State Spartans are right now. And I've known for San Jose State that they're just stupid sometimes. Their coaching staff, I think they're dumb. I think they are. I think it all starts with benching Emmett Brown last year. I think their play calling sucks. I think it's horrible. I think they don't have clock management. I think they don't know how to coach anything offensively. I think Walker gets a raw product who is just green, who I know is his second full year starting now, but he's a senior too. Damn. I thought he was a junior. Emmett Brown was better than him. And unfortunately, San Jose State screws Emmett Brown over. They send him to Coastal Carolina, and his career's over now with a career-ending spinal injury, if I'm not mistaken. It's neck spinal injury, right? I'm so mad what they did to Emmett Brown, man. Emmett Brown was very good for this football team, and they benched him for no reason. And look what you have now. Look where you were at the end of last year. Sure, that was Walker Gut starting. You beat Stanford. And get those for 385 yards. Sure, you have nothing near the weapons you had last year, though. Nick Nash was legitimately one of the best college receivers of all time. Wins the Triple Crown. He's now on the practice squad for the Atlanta Falcons. But Nick Nash had as good of a year as any college receiver has ever had, right? You also had Justin Lockhart, who had a monster year last year too, and you lose both of your top guys in 2025. It has been extremely rough sledding, though, for San Jose State. You're 1-2. Your only victory, you had to put a game-winning drive together to beat the Idaho Vandals. And, with all due respect to Idaho, I got to give Idaho some credit. They're one of the better teams in the Big Sky, but you're San Jose State. Joshua Wood, right? Former Fresno quarterback. There's a rivalry there, right? The Valley Bay Cup or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. The trophy that they play for. Battle of the Valley Cup or something. Joshua Wood comes in there. I'm surprised he's at Idaho, but that's a great great spot for Joshua Wood. Wood almost beat San Jose State. Obviously with this former rival in SJSU. But that's too close for comfort, man. It's not like you went to the Kibbe Dome and played them. No, the game was in San Jose. And sure, there's nobody there because you lost all your hype from last year, especially because Nick Nash is gone, you're not winning anymore, and your home opener, your kicker missed 2 game-winning field goals. Not one, no, he got 2 chances to win the game, and he missed both of them against Central Michigan. Wow. San Jose's found their lead back as Jabari Bates, the junior out of Compton, California. It's not Floyd Chalk anymore. No, it's Jabari Bates. But Stanford should win this game. They should. They're 1-0 at home this year. They're going to be 2-0. Ben Gulbranson, I guess, was a little bit better at Virginia. He's nothing but a game manager. He's not going to wow you. He just needs to get the ball to his weapons. Sam Roush, CJ Williams, Bryce Farrell, Micah Ford, their lead back. San Jose is not a good team, though. I've gone at Stanford for being horrible. San Jose State's really bad, man. They're not good defensively this year. Their entire thing last year is that, okay, we can hold you defensively, and our offense, we can get into some shootouts if we need to, but our defense should be able to make plays, and we've got a good run defense. That's not the case this year. Not at all. And I know it's only a 3-game sample size, but man, you're 1-2, and sure, you lost to Texas on the road, but the Central Michigan loss just stands out. You could not lose that game, and you did. And you did. You lost it to Central Michigan at home, and your entire season just changes now. Yeah, you could still win the Mountain West, and this game doesn't affect you either. But am I believing in San Jose State anymore? Hell no, I'm not. I'm taking Stanford. I'm taking the Cardinal here. They're at home. This is a great bet in my opinion. You'll see this later in the week. Don't get me wrong. -125 for the Cardinal at home. Give me Ben Gulbranson and Andrew Luck and company. Let's go. Next up, we go on to another Mountain West squad, but actually a good Mountain West team in Boise State. Now, Boise State may no longer be the favorites to win the Mountain West this season. Actually, Vegas odds they might. To me, they just give up too many points, and I think a better defense and better teams can give them trouble. UNLV, Fresno State. I am checking real quick to see who the odds-on winner to win the Mountain West is. Oh, it's Boise's -115. Ooh, you can snag some great value at +420 for UNLV and +650 for Fresno State. Bet on both of them, and one of them probably comes through for you. That's all I'm saying. Utah State's +1900. It's not that bad. Those odds are not bad at all. Anyways, Boise, to me, I think, and I know Air Force is an explosive offense, and they're going to do that to everybody, and Air Force scored a lot against Utah State, in all fairness, as well. But you can tell Boise is just not the same squad, at least defensively they're not, because at least they'd have their way defensively against a lot of Mountain West teams last year, and they can still run it. I mean, some people are calling Dylan Riley the next Ashton Genty in terms of just he's ripping big carries every single game now. Had a rough week one against USF, but Dylan Riley in 3 games is 314 yards now, and that, again, is a product primarily of his game at Air Force. Dylan Riley runs the ball 19 times at Air Force for 171 yards and 4 touchdowns. Yes, that is, I guess, Ashton Genty-esque. Now, the pace that Genty put up last year is unmatched, and nobody's going to match that, quite frankly, maybe ever. I mean, the only numbers that are better than his is Barry Sanders, right? And obviously that was in a much shortened season, which just makes Barry's numbers even more incredible. But Boise is a good team. They have a good offense. I just worry about them defensively sometimes. They should have no troubles against App State, though. App State could barely get by Lindenwood, which is an FCS school. They beat up on Charlotte, but anybody could beat up on Charlotte. My local high school team might be able to beat Charlotte on a good night. And App State's last game, they go to Southern Miss and they lose. Yeah, Braylon Braxton and Southern Miss and the former Marshall Thundering Herd can be dangerous. They are good. If you're losing by 16 points to them, who I respect, I picked Southern Miss earlier in the video, but if you're losing to them by 16 points, how many points is Boise State going to beat you by? Exactly. A whole lot more. I think Boise runs it up on them this week. I think they do. Maddox Madsen, again, he has that experience now, obviously going to the postseason last year is the reason he beat out Malachi Nelson, which, you know, now it seems crazy, like, oh, that was a competition at one point in time. It was Malachi Nelson and Maddox Madsen. Obviously, Madsen now is the much more established and better quarterback, which is crazy to think of now, especially from where Malachi Nelson came from and all the hype that he had at one point in time. But Boise should be able to score. Appalachian State's defense is not that great. They're still starting Swan, right? Yeah, are they starting Swan or Gillen? I don't know who they're going to be starting this week. They have 2 quarterbacks. Maybe Gillen might be better than Swan, but he's just very young and very inexperienced. And you take that to go on the road on the blue turf, the Smurf turf they call it, and Boise. Yeah, that's going to be trouble. I'm going Boise to dominate here. This is just going to be a difficult game too for App State. It's a later game. Actually, no, it's only 4:30 at Boise, but still, actually, that's not that big of a deal. But you got to travel all the way to Boise and play a team that's going to try to run the ball down your throat right now with Dylan Riley, as they have a lot of confidence in him, and he's getting, you know, the Genty tag now too. Yeah, that's going to be a brutal game, I think, for Appalachian State. I'm going Boise State at home to win and cover the 16.5 points. Next up, we go to the final SEC game of the day, of the week. South Carolina hosts the Kentucky Wildcats. This game just kind of gets lost in everything, truthfully, at 4:45. It's one of the later games, as, again, I mentioned earlier in the video, way earlier in the video, that there's just not many late-night games this week. Hell, there's really only one. Only one game gets the late-night tag, and that's at 7:15 between the Colorado Buffaloes and the Brigham Young Cougars. But we have 3 more games before we get to that and before we close the video. South Carolina hosts the Kentucky Wildcats. I'm going to take Kentucky to cover. I don't know what South Carolina is going to be still. I don't know. I mean, you look at back-to-back weeks for them, back-to-back disappointing games. Now, Lenora Sellers plays last week, which surprised me. Coming off a concussion, I didn't expect him to clear protocol, and I thought with our whole, CTE thing and just, awareness, I guess, around CTE, we wouldn't let a guy play a week after getting a concussion, but here we are. Thankfully for Lenora Sellers, he didn't end up on some Tua-type beat. Which again, I hope happens to nobody, and obviously I don't hope happens to Tua again. But Sellers plays, his team still loses, and this game against Missouri just showed what hole South Carolina has this year. They have a good quarterback, a really good quarterback in Lenora Sellers. The rest of the team is not good. That's as simple as I can put it for you. They don't run the ball. They can't run the ball. Guys, South Carolina ran the ball. I'm going to take away the Lenora Sellers carries because those are mostly sacks. They ran the ball 12 times for 17 yards. I mean, I don't care what defense you're playing. You could be playing the 85 Bears. 12 carries, 17 yards. Are we serious? You're playing Mizzou. I know Mizzou's good this year, but really? And I get what South Carolina wants to do. They want to throw the ball as many times as possible. I know what they want to do. That is absolutely horrid, man. That is bad. Kentucky's coming off a victory off a bye week. They beat East Michigan 48-23. East Michigan rolls into Kroger Field and they get absolutely dominated. And obviously there was Zach Calzada was the starting quarterback of this team. I don't know who's starting this week. Calzada had injury issues. Cutter Boley is the backup quarterback. Calzada was not playing well before he went out. So I don't know who's starting this week. Will it be Boley? Will it be Calzada? Probably be Boley, right? I'm pretty sure it is Cutter Boley is going to start. I think so. Because I believe Calzada was injured. I think so. I could have sworn I saw a report of him being injured. They're going Cutter Boley, I think. And that's for the better. He's better than Calzada. And I think he should be able to keep them in this game. I mean, look at the game they played at Ole Miss, right? Or that was at Kentucky. But still, Calzada does not play well in that game. It was all the run game out of Kentucky, and they keep it close, and they only lose by 7 points to the Rebels. If Cutter Boley could actually get something going out of the pass game, Kentucky can be competitive. What Boley does last week against Eastern Michigan, or 2 weeks ago against East Michigan, 12 for 21. Again, they're still not throwing the ball much, but at least you get a little bit more production. Noah Kim throws for 330 on the other side, and obviously, right, East Michigan is a very low-level team this season, but if you just are able to produce any threat of the pass game, it makes you more dangerous. And I think, again, 6.5 points is a lot, especially considering how South Carolina is playing right now. The fact that they have no help for Lenora Sellers. Thankfully, again, he's no longer, in concussion problems and protocol and, fear of that. But 6.5 points, I think, for an SEC matchup. I get South Carolina's at home in Columbia. It's just too many points to ask, in my opinion. I'm taking Kentucky on the road to cover the 6.5 points. Next up, we go on to a close odds matchup here between two very mid football teams. The Louisiana Raging Cajuns and the Marshall Thundering Herd. Marshall, though, has been winning. They've won 2 in a row. They beat Middle Tennessee last week, right, on the road. They go win that game 42-28. They beat Eastern Kentucky the week before. They did lose to Missouri State the week prior to that, but it is what it is. I mean, for Marshall, I know you're playing in that game a team in Missouri State that has, you're building a program for the first time, obviously the FBS level, but in all fairness to Marshall, they're literally building up a program from scratch at this point because they lost over 70% of their players, not just the Southern Miss, but just the portal as a whole, too. Everyone left from Marshall last year, and a Marshall team that had a really good 2024. Marshall went 10-3 and couldn't play their bowl game after winning the COSA championship, the Sun Belt championship, because they didn't have enough players. It's unheard of stuff. And so you go from the peak of winning the Sun Belt to now you're at the bottom of the conference, in my opinion, and now you're 2-2. And good on you. You beat Middle Tennessee. They have made the quarterback switch from Zion Turner to Carlos Del Rio Wilson, and Del Rio Wilson has been pretty solid in the 2 games he's played. It's EKU comes in relief, plays pretty well, and last week against Middle Tennessee, 18 for 22 passing for 261 yards and 4 touchdowns. This is their guy, I think. Zion Turner was very mid to start the season. I believe you got to go with Carlos Del Rio Wilson instead of the former UConn transfer in Turner. So Del Rio Wilson is a junior as well. I think, they're both juniors. Del Rio Wilson, again, back up at Syracuse. He is now getting to start at Marshall, and that's the right move that they can make. They've been able to air the ball out quite a bit with him. How am I supposed to take Louisiana? By the way, again, Sun Belt game, first of the season for both squads. How am I supposed to take the Raging Cajuns, who just lost to East Michigan on the road? How am I supposed to take that team? You're 1-3. Your only win is McNeese. It's not basketball. This is not the dominant force up the Southland that McNeese is in college basketball. I don't know how I'm supposed to take Louisiana here in this spot. They are at home, are the Raging Cajuns, and I butchered the graphic. That's on me. Marshall should be on the left side. They are on the road. Louisiana's on the right. They are at home. That's my fault there. I don't see how the Raging Cajuns win this game. They are not good offensively. I know they scored last week against East Michigan. They scored 31 points, but ultimately it wasn't enough. They fully committed, not to their Ole Miss transfer, but instead to Daniel Beal is their guy for now. Obviously, there's injuries involved too, but for now, it is Daniel Beal as the starting quarterback due to the circumstances. Beal's just extremely inexperienced. He's a freshman. He's a freshman who's made one career start, and now you ask him to start at home against Marshall, but a Marshall team that's airing it out right now and scoring points. So my thing is, good luck, Louisiana. Can you keep up? It's just a shame what happened to these two programs, right? I mean, this was the Sun Belt Championship game last year. This is a rematch of the Sun Belt Championship. You had last year Ben Wooldridge versus, Ben Wooldridge was hurt, but still, the two starting quarterbacks for the two best teams in the conference last year was Ben Wooldridge and Braylon Braxton. Braylon Braxton's now playing in another team in the Sun Belt, and Ben Wooldridge is a practice squad player for the the New England Patriots. It's a shame. It really is. I'm going Marshall here. I think they should win this game quite easily. They are on the road, but I just don't care. They have talent, and I think Del Rio Wilson's playing really, really good football right now. So I got to go Marshall. Next up, we go to Texas El Paso for UTEP at home against La Tech. This is great value for Louisiana Tech. Incredible value for Louisiana Tech. UTEP continues to play poor football. Yeah, they were close against Texas. That's not because of, it's because of UTEP's defense, but also that's just because Texas is they just crapped the bed in their own right in that game. They did not play well enough to blow out nor cover against UTEP, and they kept the Miners in the football game. Last week, UTEP plays UL Monroe, and Louisiana Monroe beats them by 6 points on their own home turf. And again, we mentioned that earlier with Aiden Armetta and the guys in UL Monroe. That game was essentially over in the third quarter, and Malachi Nelson puts together heroic, you can say, a valiant effort in comeback of, throwing for 200 plus yards in garbage time and cutting the lead to 6 eventually, but the game was over. Actually, in all fairness, Malachi Nelson got a drive to end the game, and he turned the ball over and got picked. Okay. La Tech's playing good football. And I'm watching that Southern Miss game, man. I mean, that is stifling defense against essentially the Sun Belt winners last year. That's legitimately, that's what Southern Miss is. I keep hammering that in with Southern Miss and Marshall. Marshall is Southern Miss now, right? And La Tech gets that game at home. They dominate Southern Miss on that side of the ball. They turn Braylon Braxton over. They stuff that run game. And the offense for La Tech looks good enough. They're running the ball for big carries. There's some big plays where Blake Baker's fighting Eli Finley, and La Tech wins the game at home. They're a much better Louisiana Tech Bulldogs team from last year, because my goodness, they were borderline unwatchable last year, was Louisiana Tech. But they're finding ways to do it now. So I got to give them credit in that aspect. They're gonna force Malachi Nelson, or they're gonna dare Malachi Nelson to beat them. That's what they're gonna do. Malachi Nelson's not winning this football game. He is at home. He's back in El Paso again. But UTEP's won one game all year long, and they beat UT Martin, who is just a known beater for Group of 5 schools. I mean, it's just the way La Tech's going to play. They're going to stuff your run. And UTEP doesn't run the ball that much, but that's not going to be really an option. They're going to load the box, and they're going to say, okay, go beat us then. UTEP's not doing that. And Malachi Nelson, with all due respect, is not doing that either. La Tech's got a good enough offense, but their best offense is their defense. And their defense is going to turn over, obviously, the opposition. They're going to turn the field over for them as well, and La Tech's going to win that battle. I can't believe I'm praising Louisiana Tech so much after how much I despised them last year for how much they screwed us last year, but I got to go with them now. I think La Tech's got something. Are they the best team in the CUSA? No. Are they a good team this year in the Conference USA? You're damn right. I'm going with the La Tech Bulldogs to go on the road and beat UTEP. I think it's incredible value here for La Tech. They are a much better football team, especially. I cannot understate how big of a victory that was to beat Southern Miss last week and the way they did it too. Yeah, it's only a 10-point victory. Essentially, that's a multi-score win, though. Again, that Southern Miss score comes very late in the football game with seconds remaining on the clock. So I think La Tech's legit this year, and I have to sing their praises after I did not think they were going to beat Southern Miss. So give me La Tech to walk into UTEP and cover the 4.5 points. 4.5, 3.5. Give me La Tech. Final game of the week, we go to the Big 12. The only real night game this week, at least the late night spot. There's only one of them. Colorado at home versus Brigham Young. At Folsom Field in Boulder, I'm going Colorado. Not to win. I actually believe BYU probably wins the football game. 6.5 points is a lot. It is. Colorado's coming off a victory. I think the quarterback position and the quarterback situation is still weird because Ken Salter is their guy for now, but then what happens when he's on a short leash and he gets pulled again? And here's the thing with Colorado football and just Coach Prime, right? we've never seen Deion coach a team that's not had Shedeur Sanders on it. So for the entirety of Deion's coaching career, he's had obviously one of the best college football quarterbacks on his squad and playing for him. And oh, by the way, that happens to be his son. Now it's not like that. And if you're Deion, if you're Prime, you kind of expect everyone to kind of be on that Shedeur level because that's what you expect. That's all that you've seen so far. So when a guy like Caden Salter transfers in for Liberty, he's getting a bunch of money, doesn't play like Shedeur Sanders, then okay, you pull him and you go to Juju Lewis, who you paid to be the second highest paid freshman in all college football behind just Bryce Underwood, who's making starts every week for Michigan. He doesn't play well. Okay, here comes Ryan Staub, who's been in the org or been in the system for a little bit, backed up Shedeur. Hopefully he can be Sanders, and he's not. So they all play at one point. Staub gets a start at Houston. He doesn't play well. They go back to Caden Salter last week. They beat Wyoming. They beat him by 17 points. Scoring didn't get going until the second quarter, but good on Colorado. They found a way to win the football game. Okay. Salter was really effective. I'll give him credit, right? That's probably one of the better games I've seen Salter play, including some of his beatdown games in the Conference USA. Salter throws for 304 yards and 18 for 28 passing, 3 touchdowns, runs the ball 11 times, picks up 86 yards in the process. Again, I have to give credit to where credit is due with Caden Salter. He played a really good football game against a defense in Wyoming that, has shut down the likes of the big bad Akron Zips. So, good game for Colorado. They take on Brigham Young, who is coming off a 21-point victory at East Carolina. It's a game, though, that was close in the first half, got away from ECU in the second half. BYU's a good team, and this is a rematch, right, of the Alamo Bowl last year. Obviously played at a neutral site in San Antonio, Texas, but now you get it at Colorado. I think that's going to make a big difference. I'm not sold just yet on Brigham Young. I'm not. I don't think they're the Brigham Youngs of years past. I don't think this is like a Zach Wilson BYU team. I don't think it's a Jake Retzlaff BYU team. I don't think it's a Jaron Hall BYU squad, even though the Jaron Hall teams never had the best records in all fairness. They were just loaded with talent with Puka Nacua. So I'll say this is not a Jake Retzlaff-esque BYU team or a Zach Wilson 2020 type year. I forgot. Brigham Young had Keaton Slovis one year too. Wasn't that weird? Slovis is in the NFL? Sorry. I don't think this is that loaded of a BYU squad. They have a good defense. They're always going to have a good defense. Offensively, though, I don't know. I mean, Bear Bachmer to me is just okay. This is the game, though. Like, if BYU goes into Colorado and really dominates, I'll be kind of sold on Brigham Young. I'll be like, all right, it's a good team in the Big 12. Bear Bachmer, he's legit. Was kind of forced into the starting role at the last second, obviously, with Retzlaff, getting pushed out for reasons off the field. Nothing too heinous, but, well, at BYU, it's heinous. LJ Martin's running the ball fairly well. He's their lead back. He had over 100 yards last week at East Carolina, but I got to go Colorado here. I think the Caden Salter emergence, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Salter getting benches to kick up the ass he needed. I'm not a big believer in that personally. If a guy's got the talent, you don't really need to bench him to get the talent out of him, right? I think, if you know a guy's your guy, you might as well just stick with them, but who knows? Maybe that helps Salter a little bit. I think, again, if anything, Colorado's building off of that win they had last week against a solid defense in Wyoming. You're going to see another solid defense this week in BYU, who really shut down what Stanford was able to do, and East Carolina, but BYU this season has not faced a team like Colorado. I know Colorado's been underwhelming so far, but at the same time, we don't know what we have out of Brigham Young. You beat Stanford, you beat ECU, and you beat Portland State, who's one of the worst FCS teams in the country. You do all that, now you got to go on the road to kick off your Big 12 season. Night game, late night game against Colorado. I'm taking the Buffs to cover the win. Don't care. I think it'll probably be BYU, but I think in a close one, I'm thinking Brigham Young wins the game by a field goal. And folks, that does it for our full college football week 5 predictions. My goodness. Thank you guys for watching the video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Again, I'm very grateful. I say this at the end of every very long college football predictions video. I'm very grateful that you guys stick around and watch these videos. It truly means a lot because it's fun. It just takes a while. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Again, we'll be back for week 6. We're doing it the entire season. We're doing it every season, I believe. So thank y'all for watching. Make sure to join us for the best bets later in the week, NFL predictions tomorrow, and of course, MLB best bets daily as well here on the channel. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.